This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to dramatic scenes here in the Mara at a crossing that I don't think any of you have ever seen, at least during this migration. Welcome to Kichwa crossing, where the poor little wildebeest is desperately struggling to get across the river. This is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live. You are live.
A very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to a somewhat early sunset safari. And we started it just so that we could catch the last few moments of what is a particularly dramatic crossing out here in the Maasai Mara. And of course you're watching all of this live, and I'll explain a little bit more in a second, but let's just watch, because these are the last two, the final two wildebeest to make their way across. Come on, little one. You can do it. I don't know what happened to the one we were watching earlier. I'm hoping it's made it out okay. Now they've got to face the slippery rocks of Kichwa crossing. There you go, well done. It's been raining a lot over the last few days. The river is rough. The rocks are slippery. There have been thousands of wildebeest crossing here today. Come on, you can do it. Oh, it's so slippery. It's not an easy task, especially when you've just swum through rapids. Now, all of this is happening live, and this afternoon on our sunset safari we will be bouncing between here in the Maasai Mara of Kenya and of course across to Juma and the Sabi Sands in South Africa. So you're in for a truly extraordinary experience, but you can do it quickly before the crocodiles come. I can't see any big crocodiles at this particular crossing. Perhaps this is why they've chosen such a difficult spot. Come on, you can do it. I know you're tired. I know you're tired. I'll show you in a bit the rapids that these wildebeest have just circumnavigated. Come on, up you get. Quick, quick. Your back foot is still in the water. You never know what's lurking. Come on, up you get. Karen, you say these rocks are vicious. I'm going to show you the rapids. Yes, yes, yes. In a second, once we've watched this wildebeest. Come on, you could... Oh, there we go. Not the most graceful experience, but you've done it. You've done it. Well done. Stiff and cold and very tired. But the worst part is behind you, Wildy. And up, 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 if you keep going, you're going to find a couple of thousand herd members to greet you. Up you go. Off you go. Well done, Wildy. You got up a little bit. You still got it. Come on, quickly, you're being left behind. Shame. Poor little thing. There he goes. I'm sorry, I know we haven't done any of the introductions or anything like that, but this is far more important. There we go. It's going to be absolutely fine. Up the banks and rejoining the rest of the herd. A very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Jamie. This afternoon, Fergus is on camera with me, and we are sitting at Kichwa crossing, which is right up in the northern part of the Mara Triangle, and there have been crossings here apparently every single, or all moments of today. Now, because this is live, it means that you can send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. And what we're going to do is we're going to spend the entire afternoon, or at least as long as we can, here with these wildebeest, because they're crossing from this side, from the western side. Scott is across in the National Reserve that is off to my right on the eastern side. But at the same time, on the other side, there are thousands and thousands of wildebeest. So that's the eastern side, and that's where our group of wildebeest just came from. Now, there's a whole other group gathering on the opposite side of the bank, and this is where the migration gets confusing. We're going to try and stick with them and see whether or not there are any more large crossings. So while we do that, we're going to send you over to Tristan so that he can say an early afternoon.
Hold on, spiderwebs. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our sunset safari. I do apologize about a few spider webs that are over the lens. I was trying to get rid of them, so hopefully they're all gone now. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Craig, aka the Batman, and we are coming to you live from Juma as Jamie is in the Mara with her crossing, and what an epic way to start. Now, remember, this is a live safari, so we can chat to you guys, and you guys can ask us any questions that you would like to answer, well, to ask us, and answers that you would like to receive, and you can do that by hashtag Safari Live or on the YouTube chat. So that's how you get hold of us, and hopefully there will be lots of questions coming our way for an epic afternoon. We've started off with a bang with a crossing in the Mara, and I think Tara is going to try and see if she can't follow up on those mating leopards from this morning, which will be wonderful, and I'm going to try and see if I can't continue on my search for the Kahuma Pride. So that is the plan for this afternoon. Hopefully we will be successful. We're also going to take a little loop around where Shangile was left this morning because, well, she's such a pretty little girl and it's been a while since I've seen her, so I would like to catch up with her again and just see what she's been up to and how her time has been. So that's what we're going to do. It's a beautiful day at Juma, though. We've got a little bit of cloud, but not too much. The sun is shining, it's fairly warm, and it is the most pleasant way to spend an afternoon. In fact, if you're on a safari now, this is the best temperature you could ask for in the afternoons because it's not too cold, it's not too hot, and it is perfect conditions for the animals to be out, such as the impalas, which are on my left-hand side. Now, they're still in the shade at the moment because it's a little bit on the warm side still. They'll be using these shady areas to feed and to get nutrients, as well as for a little bit of shade to get out of the sun. When the sun is beating down at 12 o'clock in the day, it's not very pleasant, so they go into these areas and they sit on the fringes of these big open clearings, and as it starts to get on in the afternoon, so we're going to find these guys coming out of there and into the open areas. Now, there's a couple males here, so it's all a bachelor herd, which is be from the rutting season. That's why they will be so many of them together. When it was rutting season, the bachelors get pushed out by the more dominant male and they join together for safety in numbers, so that's why it's not uncommon to see a whole bunch of male impalas together. And whoops, there we go, running off. Now, we're going to carry on our mission and go and see what else we can find, as I'm sure there will be many an impala on our way. And while we do that, let's go across to Dr. Tara, and so she can say hello.
Hi everybody, and welcome on board this afternoon, and I'm hoping you have heard we had a fantastic sighting of leopards mating. It was Tingana and Tandy, so we're not too far from where we left them, but if you were lucky enough to be on board with us live, then you would have known that he dropped us a present, so I'll go into that a little bit more detail. But as Tristan said, my name's Tara, and joining me on camera is Senzo, and I'm hoping we might have some spots this afternoon, fingers crossed. But what I would love to do is actually pick up some of the dung. I'm going to bring a little piece back so you can have a look, but we are doing, or there is actually a research project here in the Sabi Sands on the genetics and the fathering or parenting of the cubs here. So they're actually trying to work out who the fathers are and who their cubs are, and see if there's any I want to say extramarital affairs, but they're not. It's not really. Leopards don't really mate for life, so we tend to think that one male will mate with the female, and whoever we've seen the female with, they tend to be the father of the offspring. But what's coming through now is potentially the females might have 2, maybe sometimes 3 males who might mate with her. So that's what this research project is looking for, to look at the genetics, and we're using the dung to actually do that. Now, we were lucky enough to catch Tingana actually defecating on the road, and that is very normal for leopards to do because they're very visual predators and they like to leave their calling card where other leopards cannot miss it. So that's right out in the open. Any other leopard coming through here, they'll see that and they'll go and investigate and obviously get all the chemicals that are with it as well. So we actually have A little pack here. I've already filled all the details out for them, and as I say, if they really want, we've actually caught it live on camera. The actual male who left it, so I'm sure they'll be very happy with that. So we're just going to go and grab a piece. Now I am going to only grab a small amount, so I'm just going to put enough in the tube, just so that there is still going to be something left for the other leopards to find. So I'll bring some back for you, so if you come back to us, I'll be able to show you, open it up and show you what's in there. But I think there's some wildebeest for you to see, so I'll catch you in a little while. Bye for now.
And we are up at the top away from the crossing, and we've caught up with the wildebeest that made it across the Mara River, and we've been following this lost little chap to see whether or not it manages to find mum once again. It's always slightly upsetting to see them afterwards, because in the chaos they invariably become separated from their mums. There's another lost little one. Keep calling, can see it calling. Call for your mum. And just like with most animals, mothers will recognize the individual sound of their offspring, even though it sounds exactly the same to the rest of us. They recognize it's as individual to them as a mother's child is to a human being. Keep calling, come on. I know there's a lot of wildebeest here. This is the equivalent of losing your mum in a really, really big grocery store. After, you know, life or death struggle. So maybe not quite the equivalent. Stopping to take a bit of a break. Of course, the heartbreaking thing is not every mother makes it out of the river crossings. Not every calf does. Where's your mum? I was thinking about it yesterday. I think it was yesterday. I've lost track of days. Is that your mum? Is that mum? Don't know. No, clearly not. I was thinking about it yesterday, but it would be the most extraordinary thing to follow one, okay, I admit it probably would be impossible to do. Follow just one wildebeest calf or one zebra foal through the migration from Tanzania, follow it every day, figure out what it does. I don't know, you'd probably have to collar it. And I'm not sure. I think you'd learn something interesting from just about their movements, because the wildebeest have all crossed over the Mara River into the Mara Triangle, and now a whole load of them are crossing back. And it seems so pointless, but there's meaning to what they do. There must be. Come on, little one. Keep calling. Keep calling. Somewhere, hopefully, in the thousands of wildebeest in front of you, Mum is waiting. That little one on the right is having a rest. Exhausted after the struggle. There you go. Go join the rest of the young ones in your herd. You'll be okay there. Quick sniff to see if this is Mum. Not sure if it is Mum, but it seems to be tolerant enough. There you go, little one. You settle there. Have a rest, regain your strength. Aaron, having watched that crossing, you want to know how many wildebeest will be injured by sharp rocks when crossing. I don't know, I suppose it depends upon where they cross, but I imagine quite a few of them. They are very agile creatures, despite the you'd sort of think when you look at their sharp hooves that wouldn't be very good for balancing. But we of course know that not to be true. You get those goats that climb up almost vertical dam walls and cliff faces. So a cloven hoof does actually work quite well for gripping, and their toes can splay to help to provide them with a little bit of extra balance. But those rocks, I mean, there was no way they could make their way across those rocks without falling. It's slipping. They were so clearly so slippery, so I imagine it's actually pretty common. I'm not sure, though, exactly what the statistic would be. I couldn't give you a quantitative answer. Lots, I imagine. It's the most astounding scene out here. Right up in the corner next to the airstrip, the Kitchwatemba airstrip. And the rest of them making their way back towards a further river crossing. But to go the other way. Not the way that our wildebeest have just come. A little bit earlier on, Ferguson arrived and I arrived here about an hour ago. And they were all massing on the bank to go the other way. Now they seem to have changed their mind. Let's see what they decide to do throughout the course of the afternoon. That's not a wildebeest. That's an elephant. We were watching them chase the wildebeest round earlier. It was quite entertaining. Going back to our sad scene of earlier, Leopard mother, you would like to know about our poor little wildebeest calf. And remember, we don't know that it's orphaned yet. We do know that it is looking for mum, but we don't know that it could easily find her. I don't know where it's gone now. I've lost track of it. But leopard mother, no, another female will not adopt a wildebeest calf. They are very much bonded and, what's the word, and actually quite possessive over their own calves. And I've seen the odd wildebeest butt a youngster that got her confused with its own mother. So no, they don't adopt them. Cases of adoption in animal societies are rare. It does happen, but it is unusual. And particularly in something like an antelope species. They're just streaming in. They don't seem like they're moving fast, but they just keep coming. Oh, there it is. No, that's not it. Noel, you would like to know about our little calf and whether or not it is old enough to eat grass yet. I think that's it there, Ferg, that the other wildebeest are kind of stepping around. If you look a little bit to the left, or that might just be another wildebeest calf. I have to be honest, I have absolutely no idea how to identify them, but I think that's it, and I think that its companions just moved away. Now, Noel, it's absolutely old enough to eat grass. It's fully weaned, and it will be able to survive, even if Mum isn't around. It'll be fine, and you can see it's actually sitting ruminating as we speak. So in terms of keeping itself fed, it will be fine. It'll stay together with the rest of the herd for as long as it can. And let's put it this way, it certainly will never be lonely. I'm pretty sure that's it. Pragmatically taking a moment to ruminate. I suppose I also wouldn't want to face the horrors of the Mara River on an empty stomach. They've just crossed from east to west, and this stream of wildebeest moving behind it are now aiming to cross from west to east. Strange. Massing slowly but surely towards that other crossing. I wonder whether or not this little one will be dragged along back across again. Or if it will decide to stay, or at least the herd will decide to stay in the Mara Triangle for a bit longer. Or will it be forced to face the gauntlet twice in one day? In the confusion of herd movements. Backwards and forwards. Okay, little one. Good luck. I hope you find your mum. We're going to go and find a good point to view the crossing a little bit further upstream of where we have been. And speaking of seeking things, it sounds as though Tara is seeking her area of expertise.
Oh, welcome back everybody. And we're just along Triple M at the moment, just seeing if we can catch up with our mating cats from this morning. It is quite warm now, so I'm not holding out much hope, but I just thought maybe it's worth checking out, see if we can find any tracks. I think I've got some fresh tracks, although Tingana was all over the whole area this morning. He was on his own little mission. He would literally put his nose to the ground and look like a tracker dog, and he was just doing circles the whole time, and Tandy, it was all she could do to keep up with him, and she kept sort of parking off and just waiting for him to move on from that area. So it's quite difficult to see, but I think we found some fairly fresh tracks heading east along Balanites Road and then heading north. So we're going to double back and have a look around there. Possibly there's some alarm calls that Tristan's picked up further north around Gallagher Shortcut somewhere there. But as promised, I did pick up the scat, so I've saved some for you. As I say, we've got to be very careful because there can be some bacteria in the scat. But if I open this up for you, that is leopard scat, and it can be quite difficult to tell the difference between caracal and lion, and you tend to go off of the size of it. But the contents, you know, for those 3 cats can be pretty much fur, and that's what we've got here. We've got some pieces of fur in there. There's a little bit of sand that got mixed in, but otherwise plenty of fur. I'm not seeing much in the way of nail, but sometimes you do get the nails because it's quite difficult to digest the keratin. But there's not much in there at this stage. I did leave the rest of it for the other leopards to see as a calling card, but just quite interesting to see what is there. So I look for the diameter of the scat, and it's roughly around the 2 centimetre mark for a leopard, a little bit smaller and shorter for a caracal, and generally a lot larger for a lion. But then obviously you've got to remember there could be cubs around, and sometimes some of the big male leopards could look like small lions. So that's why it's not an exact science, so you do have to do the genetics on it to really see. And I remember there was quite an interesting paper when I was at a conference in Kruger talking about scat, and they thought they'd picked up some eland scat, and it actually turned out to be ostrich, which was really bizarre because unfortunately I'm probably not going to be able to show you the 2 types, but ostrich are quite big and they've got a bit of white in there as well, which is very characteristic of bird scat. But the actually I might have a pellet for you here. So if you look at the giraffe scat, the eland can look very similar to the giraffe scat, so there it is there. So similar in size. So to actually pick it up thinking it's eland and it's actually ostrich, then that's got to be some really strange ostrich dung that got left behind. But as I say, it's really almost an art understanding what the scat, and so you have to kind of put everything together, so looking at the tracks, looking at where you are, the behaviour of the animal as well. So even the professionals can get it wrong sometimes, but I thought that'd be quite nice to show you, because I say we don't often get a chance to play with the carnivore scats. As I say, you'll see we'll quite happily pick up the herbivore, but the carnivore does have the bacteria, so we do have to be quite careful. So we're going to carry on our search, so let's see if we hit it lucky. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'll throw it off as we pass the rest of the scat again, so I'm not going to confuse the matters. That could be quite fun. But I think we're going to see if Tristan has anything interesting for you. Hopefully he's found where those alarm calls are coming from. Keep your fingers crossed.
Well, I haven't quite gotten there yet, Tara. I'm hoping that there are some, well, there were some baboons alarm calling, and it sounded like somewhere near Vulture camp, but the guests are still inside the lodge, so unfortunately for now, I can't get there just yet. But on top of that termite mound, we're not just admiring the view that is the northern side of the firebreak, but there was a dwarf mongoose that was somewhere there. It's now disappeared, unfortunately. There was just a little head sticking up with 2 little ears, and unfortunately it seems as though it's gone deeper into the mound to get away from us. I was hoping that the dwarf mongoose, because they generally are quite inquisitive, curious animals, that they would decide to come out, but alas, they've decided to go back into the mound instead. So we shall carry on our journey. I'm sure there will be another dwarf mongoose to be seen as we meander our way around. Now, the thing about baboons is that their alarm calls, while they are useful, generally are a bit of a problem because their eyesight is so good. So a baboon can see a very long way away, and if it's up in a tree, it could be spotting Tingana and Tundi down by Philemon's cutline or something like that, and we sort of driving around close to where they are and not really finding anything. But it's worth a try to check. We know Shongile was around this morning, and she was between sort of Gallagher Shortcut and Aubrey's, and then you've got to wonder where maybe Tumba has gone, because I'm sure Tumba at some point was with Tundi, and maybe she left Tumba around the dam area, and we'll be able to find him somewhere there. So that's what I'm thinking. It also could be that they've seen the Nkuhuma Pride from the dam area. They did go past there. So there's a number of variables, and worth us having a little look and checking what's going on. But I didn't find any tracks for Shongile crossing back from Aubrey side over Gallagher Shortcuts. It seems as though it was just hyenas that were walking there, and I do apologize, a bit of a bouncy camera as we go through that dip. It was a lot more rocky and uneven than I expected. And I'm just checking carefully just in case one of these leopards maybe walked up this way. You never know. This is an area that they like to walk a lot. There's lots of drainage sections. That is perfect conditions, or perfect habitat for leopards to walk. So we need to try and see if there isn't one there. I'm also hoping that the birds will be out this afternoon. This morning it was a little bit lackluster with birds, which was a bit disappointing. I always enjoy doing birding, and this morning just seemed as though it was quite quiet on the birding front. Now, talking about birds, there already is... Oh no, don't fly away. Of course you would fly away. My bird flew away, unfortunately. So, David, I'm going to get to you now. You were asking if Tundi is pregnant. Sorry, there was a black-headed oriole that just flew away. I'm going to try to see if I can't find it again. But you're asking if Tundi is pregnant, will she kick Tumba away? Most certainly. Once she feels as though she's pregnant and her belly starts to swell, and she'll know straight away that she's pregnant, then she's going to start chasing him away for sure. But when they mate like this, sometimes Tara and I were actually discussing this today, and we're having a bit of a chat over breakfast. Unfortunately, our oriole is flown off. But we were just chatting about leopards and mating behavior outside when they still have a dependent cub, and it's actually quite common. I've seen it in most of the females that I've been fortunate enough to follow. So even the females down in the south of the reserve, so Scotia female, Wilson's Pan, Outcrop, they all also used to practice this. They used to mate every now and then when they had a dependent, and I'm not sure what the exact reason is. I hypothesize, which is just a theory, it's not fact in any way, so don't quote me on it, but I think it's something to do with the fact that the males move around, and the female, in order to just keep that male happy, sort of presents herself and makes sure that he knows that she's a viable option for mating and not something that he should be attacking or chasing or trying to hurt in any way. So it's almost like a false estrus that just fools him into it. The other side of it is also in a case like what we have today with Tundi and Tumba and Tingana, is that Tundi is now shifted way out of where she normally was situated. With Karula's absence, we've got Tundi now coming up towards Gari Dam and up into the central parts of Juma, which typically was not an area that she inhabited. And so I think what she's trying to do is she's mating with Tingana as almost if to say, I am now the female in this area, I'm a viable option for mating. If you find me outside of my normal range and in this area, I'm not a threat in any way, and one that she could then, basically be safe under that area while Tingana moves around. So I think for me that's probably more likely than her actually being an actual estrus, but it's not uncommon for it to have happened that she might come into an estrus early and that she might kick Tumba away at an early age. Right, I believe Jamie, which I'm hoping has got her fancy hat on, is sitting contemplating the wildebeest, contemplating the river crossing.
I do have my fancy hat on indeed, Tristan, and thank you for calling it a fancy hat. It's very hot today, and it's not too windy, which means that the fancy hat can actually be worn. If it's too windy, then the fancy hat goes flying, or else when I'm driving really fast, it does this, and then I can't see anything. But we don't have any of those situations at the moment, so I can wear the fancy hat. Back to our wildebeest contemplating the river. I don't know exactly what's going through their minds. I mean, I've said that a lot recently. I've got no idea what goes through the mind of a wildebeest. Perhaps complex quadratic equations? Maybe not. A little bit of quantum physics? The secrets of the universe? They don't seem to want to cross the rivers. That much I can tell you. I have no idea whether this group was already on the side of the river or if they've crossed during the day. It really is a bit confusing at this side. Every herd of wildebeest seems to be going one way or the other. Now, this would actually have been a far better crossing in terms of ease, but apparently there is a massive crocodile here. And what I don't want to do is drive too close to the edge, just in case we discourage them from their process moving towards the water. But apparently there is a monster croc in this particular section of river, and that's why they haven't been crossing here. Because if you look over there, it's the perfect place to exit the river. No having to scramble over rocks or up, okay, a little bit over rocks, but not nearly as badly as the side that we were at earlier, but a little bit downstream of here. I think I might return back in that direction, because this is what river crossings are all about. There were probably, I would say, a good... Let's not exaggerate, a good 1,000 wildebeest that were gathered together looking as though they were going to cross, and then 12 came across from the other side, and that was that. And they all dispersed and off they went. Where are they going? There's just these lines of animals moving. Where are you off to? To the greener grass on the other side. Not these guys, though. These guys are having a break. Now, Roshni, I can imagine you are confused, and I probably haven't explained it very well. So Roshni's confused about the east to west and west to east, and a bit confused about the way that the migration works. So the wildebeest and the zebra never go necessarily across the river just once during the migration and then a second time on the way back. What they'll do is it depends on where partly at least, or mostly, depends on where there's been rain and where there's nice good grass for them to eat. And what will often happen is wildebeest will cross and then cross back again. So they'll go from east to west, west to east. Bear in mind, a great number of these wildebeest have actually come just to the south of me. So actually, technically, they're coming from the southwest. They've come from Tanzania that way. A number of wildebeest have come up this way from Tanzania, a little bit further that way to the southeast. So it kind of creates these, they don't move in one big herd and all go across the river and off they go. It kind of creates these tidal movements with little eddies of wildebeest moving in one place around the grass there, and then a couple of thousand coming along from here, and then the others decide actually the grass is better there. So you've kind of got to think of it as an intricate and probably actually quite carefully choreographed dance, even if it's improvised. And they're following the rain and the food and the grass. So that's why it's getting so confusing, and that is where we end up with more confusion as the zebras lead the way down to the water's edge. And as we know with crossings, when one goes, they all go. Let's go and get a better view. Now that they've moved that way, I'm not worried about blocking them. And let's see. Most of the time, I would say a good 70% of the time, the animals get to this point and then they go away and they change their mind. They see a crocodile, they see a hippopotamus, they see a bird flapping, or the water splashes too hard and they decide, actually, no thank you. Right, what is going to be our best view? I think this might be. I apologize for my squeaky steering wheel. I know it's squeaky. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. Fergus, this hasn't worked, has it? Here's some beautiful raisin bushes. That's not what we've... I'm scared of the bank collapsing underneath us. Let's see if we can... Ooh. Let's just... How's that, Ferg?
Go for now.
Let's give it a go for now, agreed. It's not going to be the best view in the world, but I can't really drive over the eroded areas just to get us a better view. That would be poorest guiding at its absolute worst. Oh, zebra kicking each other and fighting. Zebra are horrible to each other. On our way out here, as we were coming down the mountain, Ferg and I witnessed 2 zebra have a fight for absolutely no reason except, I don't know, maybe one of them insulted the other in their body language, or perhaps they were just having a bad day. But the sounds of them kicking each other and the impact of their hooves and then the bite to the chest, it was just, they really are horrible creatures to each other. Oh goodness, goodness gracious. Could I edge? Yvonne, although I've said that the zebra are actually quite horrible to each other, the one thing I've noticed is they seem to approach these river crossings with slightly more of a tactic in mind. They seem to dodge the crocodiles better, and they don't seem to trample each other in the way that the wildebeest do. They probably do it though, and remember there's so many more wildebeest than there are the zebra. It probably happens just more commonly with the wildebeest, but the zebra seem to avoid that situation, but there's not as many of them. Okay, now we really are looking at a potential crossing here. We need to fly across to the other side of the river, don't we? That, unfortunately, as fantastic as my off-road driving skills are, we are not going to be going across the river. You thinking of putting our nose in here? I think so too. Where our almost camera setup happened. There goes a story, and I'm sure it's happened many a time, where an over-eager guide, desperate to get the best view of a crossing, has parked too close to the banks, and the banks have collapsed underneath them, and they've gone tumbling into the water with the zebra and the wildebeest. Ferg, there's some raisin bushes here. What if we went to the other side of the wildebeest? I wonder. Thinking of looking down that way. That might work. Can't see what the coverage is like there. I don't think there's a road that goes that way, so I can't. At the moment, the zebra are just drinking, and the wildebeest are watching them as if to say, "Oh, is it time to cross already?" Lou, please can you try that question again? Lou tried to read me a question, but it got a little bit tongue-tied. Louise has had a very long, very hard week, but she's the only one in final control apart from Kirsty, so they've had some long shifts. Debbie, so you're saying they move by committee decision rather than one individual leader. Did I get that right? Did I understand that question correctly? And Debbie, yes, essentially they do, and it's interesting to watch, because as soon as one wildebeest is brave enough to take the plunge, the rest will follow. And what often happens is the reason that wildebeest has taken the plunge is because the pressure from those at the back has just forced them to. They're being pushed towards the river to the point that they just have to they have to jump in or risk being injured. They basically get shoved into the water. But yes, it is essentially I don't know if I'd call it a committee decision, because a committee implies some sort of thought, or does it? No, I would say it's just some kind of natural instinct that spurs them on, and that herd mentality. It's a very nice image, Ferg. I know it's into the sun, but the elephants walking through the herd. And potentially chasing them as well. There we go. And we, of course, have spoken a lot about the fact that the elephants tend to move out of an area when the migration arrives and up into the hills. And that is the case. We haven't seen nearly as many elephants, but that doesn't mean they don't still make the odd appearance. And this lot have been enjoying muddy water around the river. The zebra have finished their drink. They've moved off, and as a result they have left the wildebeest leaderless and confused. They just wanted a drink. The wildebeest thought it was time to cross, and now they're confused. No, okay. All right, we're all going back again. All right, everybody, back up, back up. No, we're not crossing now. Everyone back up. And back we go again. This is pretty much what sitting manning the river cam crossings is like. Oh, look at that little one, Ferg. That's it there, staring at you there in the middle. That's a really tiny wildebeest. That's a latecomer. Sweetheart. Off you go. Now is not your time to have to cross. From an animal that is perhaps not gifted with beauty, let's go across to one that is.
Stand by.
Well, this is not one of the birds that we see that commonly out here. It is one of the roller species, and we normally see the lilac-breasted roller with its beautiful bright blue wings, but the purple roller is not as common for us. We don't see it nearly as much, and you can see it's battling a little bit in the breeze that's blowing this afternoon, having to use that tail to try and stabilize itself as it perches there. But these purple rollers, it must be the same ones that we see quite regularly around quarantine. We're just on the southern side of the dam at the moment, and I would imagine that it's one of the same that flies around that area. And fortunately, it's just flown away slowly. But the reason it's called a purple roller is because of that very purpley tinge that it's got. It's got the lilac body and then sort of deep purple wings that come off on the side. So nice to see one, and nice to see it out in the open, and at least it was obliging enough to sit and let us have a little look quickly, which is good news. Now, I still haven't found any signs of baboons just yet, so I'm now checking a little bit further south of the dam itself, just to see if maybe they went between Chelopan and the dam. I heard them from quarantine side, and they sounded a little bit far off, so I didn't get a great idea of the direction, and I'm trying to wait for Aubrey and Tux to get going so that I can ask them while they were at camp if they managed to hear what's happening there and whether or not they actually heard the baboon's alarm call. So we'll just check Vulture's nest quickly, see if there's not any sign of them there. If there's no tracks for baboons or anything like that, then we might just do a different route and go up towards Cheetah cut line, check that the lines haven't crossed that way, and then slowly come back towards the dam a little bit later this evening. I think that's going to be our modified plan. What do you think, Craig? Meow. So Craig, when Craig agrees, he just goes meow. So that's how I know Craig's in agreement with our plan for the afternoon. Now, I believe Tara has managed to find the smallest of our antelope species out here, so before it runs away, let's quickly go across to her.
Yeah, Tristan, it's so true. These ones do tend to run off just as soon as you go live. But this is a Steenbok, and it looks like a small family actually. We've just seen a female and a youngster. They've headed a little bit further into the bush than where we first found them, but at least they haven't completely run away. So there's the little female, no horns. The little male was the first one you saw on your screen, and then it looks like their son is off somewhere else. I missed where he went, but you could just about see the horns starting to come through. So very typical, they will form a pair, and they can defend the territory against other pairs. You can see that red colour really blending in quite nicely with this time of year's colours. Actually, it looks like, yeah, the little youngster is there with the father, I think. Now remember, we are live. We have absolutely no idea what's going to be found today. But if you'd like to join in, oh look at that, that's beautiful. Ah, and there's the little one, just behind him. But if you would like to get in touch with us, ask us any questions or interact, send comments, then send them through to #SafariLive or on the YouTube website as well. Now you might have noticed them occasionally just rubbing the stalks of branches, and they actually have a gland just in front of their eye called a preorbital gland, and that produces a secretion that they can actually wipe on branches to mark their territory. And they're quite fussy little eaters as well, so they do have to pick vegetation of very good quality. There you go, you should be able to just make out that black mark just in front of the eye there. That's the preorbital gland I was talking about. They said, oh, I'll have a nibble and then I might mark the territory at the same time. You can see those ears also quite large so they can detect any predators. And Paula just asking if they have great hearing. They do. Remember, they're in the thick bush, so they need to be able to detect predators because they're not going to be able to see very far, even though they've got good eyesight. But you can see that they're quite a small antelope, so they really are at a disadvantage. If you look at where the eye is compared to the grass, so it's often falling below the height of the grass, so they do need to have some other way that they can detect predators. And what they do is they actually freeze if there's anything moving around, in the hope that it will just blend in. And unfortunately, if the predator gets too close and there's nothing else they can do, they'll wait until the last second and then they'll dive away, and they hope that that split second is enough to get away, because the predator might just go, "Ooh, what was that?" And that just could mean the difference between life and death for this little antelope. Hi, Jason. Jason asking how long Steenbok, their gestation period is. And I'm a little bit scratchy on that. I think it's probably about 4 or 5 months, but if someone wants to check up on that for me and send your answers into #SafariLive or YouTube, that would be great. Say, unfortunately, numbers like that, if I don't use it, I lose it. But yeah, I think it's around the 5 or 6 month mark. Absolutely lovely. And nice to see that they're actually chilling for a change. Now you can see how far they're in the bush now. We've pulled back. So it's still quite far. But at least they're nice and relaxed now. Oh, so we're going from the smallest antelope to one of the largest herbivores on the planet with James. I'm sure he's going to enjoy that one.
Well, yes, a largish herbivore, certainly at 2.5 tons, it can certainly be thought of as bigger than average. Hello, everybody, and late start for me here, the river camera and control desk. A very warm welcome to all of you. We're looking at a slightly less warm welcome in the water there of the Mara, only about 25 degrees Celsius, 75 Fahrenheit out here today, so not very warm at all. Completely live, just like Jamie and Tara and Tristan, #SafariLive if you'd like to ask us any questions, or you can use the YouTube chat function. That will work just as well. Now, the hippos here, having a little bit of a spat, don't really understand why it is that they've been left completely in peace, with the wildebeest having moved far north to run the gauntlet of the river. Why are they doing that? Well, as Jamie's just said, no one really knows, to be sure. So we've got hippo here, and then we do, in fact, have very large, or even larger animals at Main South. Can we go and have a look there? Is that possible? Is it possible to go? There we are. Well done. Okay, so now we have an elephant. And the reason he's not looking in the highest definition at all is that he's just a little bit of distance away from the camera, so I've had to zoom in as far as possible, and that does reduce the quality slightly. There he is. Oh, he seems to have a rather swollen belly there, and he's definitely a he, so I don't know what that is. Enid, you say, do elephants cross the river? They do, and the most interesting thing we've seen crossing the river this week has been a giraffe, in fact a few giraffe. So I didn't know that they did that. We know that the lions definitely also cross the river because we see them with their muddy paws, often from the balloon after they've just got out of the river. We've seen Scarface, the big male lion, with his gammy left hip. Is it his left hip? No, his gammy back right foot. Gammy back right hip. He definitely crosses the river. We've seen him on both sides. We've seen the paradise lionesses on both sides. And so, yes, elephants will cross. Lions will cross, giraffe will cross, topi, wildebeest, zebra, Thompson's gazelles. I've seen impala massing. I haven't seen them actually take the plunge, though. So I think that's probably about it. I wonder if, I don't think the rhino cross. I imagine the leopard could definitely cross. They're adept swimmers, so that's possible. And possibly the odd bushveld gerbil. I'm joking about that. I'm not sure if bushveld gerbils cross the river at all. And you can see not a sausage of antelope or zebra action there. Everything is up around where Jamie is, around Kitchwatembo, which is way north of this position here. They will be back here. It does not mean that they've left this area and then they won't be coming back. All it means is that for now they're up there in the north. And just behind this crossing, yesterday, Jamie and I spent a huge amount of time. Oh, there's a nice heron. Let's have a look at that. Spent a huge amount of time looking for lions in amongst enormous, enormous herds, probably the biggest ones I've seen. Is this a grey heron? It looks like it might be a grey heron. Oops, the daisies. Hold on, everyone. There we go. Getting in closer. It looks like a black-headed heron, actually. No, it's not. It's a Goliath. Yeah, is it? Yes, it is. It's a Goliath heron. The colour is not fantastic. There we go. This is a monstrous fellow. That's very special. Huh. Wow. That's really cool. Look at his head, poised to stab a fish. Stab, stab, heron. Very unpleasant if you happen to be a fish. Wonderful. Okay, well, let's wait and see what this heron does, what he's going to stab. While we do that, Pyjamas, way up in the north, would like to show you some death.
I don't want to show you any death, although I suppose that's inevitable when showing a skull. We've got, I would say it would be a safe assumption that this was not placed this way by either hyenas or, in fact, the natural death position of the hippopotamus. I would say that this has been carefully and somewhat artistically placed by a human being, but it is quite a dramatic image. Even though he's missing most of his tusks, a hippopotamus mouth. And of course, James has got his hippo skull reproduction in his studio. That one looks as though it's bored with all of the proceedings. And of course, behind it, thousands and thousands of wildebeest. I wouldn't go so far as to say hundreds of thousands, but thousands and thousands. I wonder where they're off to. They don't seem to be planning on crossing the river anytime soon, but they are streaming in from the south of us. Excuse me. Now, Paula, you'd like to know if there are other animals that migrate in numbers like these gnus. This is, in terms of mammalian migrations, one of the largest, and it doesn't just include the wildebeest, although the wildebeest are by far the most numerous. You're looking at around about 1.5 million wildebeest and a couple of 100,000 zebra, depending on which book you read, between 250 to 500,000 zebra, and then a couple of 100,000 Thompson's gazelle, with the odd topi thrown in for good measure. They just sort of get caught up in the spirit of things. And then of course you get massive migration. This is not the largest migration by far. One of the largest migrations in the entire world is not any kind of land-based animal, but bats. And whales as well will also migrate in enormous numbers. So no, they're not the only animals that migrate, and I assume you mean in this particular area, in this particular migration. They also bring the zebra and the Thompson's gazelle along with them. I actually haven't seen that many Thompson's gazelle, I have to be honest, at least on this side. And I haven't seen one single crossing with Thompson's gazelle yet. The constant cacophony. I'm going to make my way... Oh! Sorry, before I do, we're in a rush, Lou, because we've shown you the dead one, but there's a live one wandering out of the water. There's a live hippopotamus. Hold on. It's behind you, Ferg. Hold on. I'll make your life slightly easier. It always gives you an amazing sense of scale when you see these creatures out of water. Slow and ponderously moving through the wildebeest. Can you see it yet? You got it. I was going to say, you can't miss it at this point. You know, you always read in books that hippo are solitary feeders at night when they come out to graze. Having driven around here a lot at night, I can tell you that they feed in groups. They feed in groups all the time. Looks like it's limping slightly. Here you go. A sense of scale for you. You should by now have a rough idea of how big a wildebeest is. That is what a hippopotamus looks like next to them. Easily 5 times, no more than. In a big hippopotamus's case, up to 10 times the size of a wildebeest. Hippo doesn't look well at all. It's not moving smoothly. Probably, most likely, a battle for space. It is very dry for this time of year, and it does seem to have a few injuries, and it definitely seems to be limping. There, look at that, fresh scars from a fight, and that is most likely from fighting with another male. You can see the scrapes and puncture wounds. You saw those tusks earlier. From the skull that we were looking at. They are capable of inflicting mortal wounds. Ponderously moving through. Shame, hippo. But they are resilient, and remember that the secretions from their skin also carry antibiotic properties, so those injuries are unlikely to fester. And there's a good chance this hippo will survive. As for the rest of the coming months, well, once again, found myself saying that we're in potentially the grips of quite a bad drought here in Kenya. It's much worse up further north, but it's not fantastic here either. Very, very dry. Okay, well, the one animal that has had things very easy at this time of year here in Kenya are the various vulture species, but back in South Africa, Tara has found one of their nest sites.
Welcome back, everybody, and we've just found ourselves the white-back vulture nest, and it's just off of Philemon's cut line, and I was hoping we might see signs of the chick. We did actually see one of the other parents flying in, and then it flew out again. And I'm not seeing any movement from the chick at this stage. So both parents actually invest in the chick, so they will fly quite a few kilometers to try and find food and bring it back for the chick, and they will do a bit of a tag team effort. And they'll often use the same nest over several years as well. And it looked like the one from Vulture's Nest Road, actually, that was used for quite a number of years, and that one looks like it's been abandoned, so I'm wondering if this isn't the same pair that's just moved tree. But they're quite a medium-sized vulture. The lappet-faced vulture is even larger than this type of vulture, and they'll eat the softer tissue of a carcass. So I'm sure the chick is in there. It's just we just can't see it at this stage. So you can get them mixed up with the Cape vultures, which are a little bit rarer than the white-backed, but you look for the blue patches on the shoulders. Hi, Strawhead. Welcome on board. Strawhead wanting to know if they will actually hunt live prey or are they just scavengers. And the lappet-faced vulture has been known to hunt live prey, but I've not heard of the white-backed vulture actually going for live prey. But they've got amazing eyesight. I mean, they can fly extremely high, and they will actually watch out for the behaviour of bataliers or tawny eagles to suggest that there's something like a carcass around. So they'll watch them swoop down, and the lappet-faced vultures actually fly even higher than the white-backed vultures, and they will watch the behaviour of other vultures. So it's almost like a little hierarchy system. But the lappet-faced vulture, everyone kind of waits for if there's a big carcass, because they are strong enough to be able to break open the skin and get to the actual meat, especially if it's hardened in the sun. Whereas these type of vultures either have to go for the soft tissue, which is often around the anus, or wait for the lappet-faced vulture to open up the rest of the carcass so they can actually scavenge the meat from inside. So there is a bit of a... Of course, they do have to wait until the lappet-faced vultures have actually had their fill. But they will also grab as much as they can in between. So if the lappet-faced are not paying them any attention, then they can run in, they can grab a piece of meat, swallow it down quickly, and then regurgitate and actually eat it properly. So they'll try and fill their crop quickly. Hi, Reety, asking if the chick feeds on the same as adults, and they actually do. So the adult will come back and regurgitate food for the chick, and so that's why it's a bit of a tag team effort. So one of the parents will go scavenge, come back, and then the other parent will go. So they do invest in this one chick quite heavily, as is the case for many raptors. You tend to get both parents actually rearing the offspring. I did see a little bit of movement actually just below the adult bird. Yeah, you can just about see there is a bit of movement there. Every so often. So we're going to go from a feathered variety animal to a mammal who might be quite interesting to watch.
They are always interesting to watch, Tara. I always find warthogs to be full of character, and particularly this grouping. This is our grouping that we see around Twin Dams quite often. We're in the Mulawati at the moment, and they've been having a nice snack on the banks of the Mulawati, and shame one of them got a little bit of a fright because it was on the wrong side and had to go screaming over through the sand, and now they're all watching us. So there you can see all the little ones. And the little males there. How many males we've got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 by the looks of it. Remember that most of the time the males will show an extra set of tusks, warts around just above that hair area, and then there will be the warts around the eyes. So you can sex them when they're younger like that. It's not always 100% accurate though, as James once found a warthog here in Juma that actually female that had those extra set of warts, which is quite unusual. But by the looks of it, most of those young ones are males. So there's particularly all the ones that are facing us. So there's definitely a few males there, and I think there's one female in amongst all of them. Poor girl, she must be having a tough time. And that actually reminds me to all the ladies out there, happy Women's Day today. I don't know if it's celebrated worldwide, but here in South Africa it is Women's Day today, so I hope that you all have a lovely day, and that all the men out there treat you with respect and kindness today. And especially to all of our women here at Safari Live, I hope you guys have had a good day. Now, our warties have all just run off as I kind of turned around, so that's gone. I was hoping that we'd get another little glimpse of them, because it was really cool to watch them, especially those little faces. They're so cute when they're little, and I'm actually looking forward to that, because it's almost time to start seeing baby piglets again. It's not long from now. It's only another 2 or 3 months, and we'll start to see the first little piglets. What is all this commotion about? I wonder if these guys will stay. There's a whole bunch of Franklins that are... Oh, no, they've all run away. Sorry, Craig. Unfortunately, there were Franklins there, but they also decided to go away. Craig, did you shower today, or is this why they're all running away from you? Possibly, that's Craig. It's all right. Well, when we get back, we'll have to make sure that you shower today. Going to carry on through the Mulawati, which means gremlins are going to abound, and so while I quickly fight them off, let's go across to James with his black-headed heron.
It is not black-headed, it is the Goliath. Goliath, everybody, Goliath. It is my mistake. I'm sorry for making it the first time around. We came to the Goliath heron, not in fact a black-headed heron at all, but a Goliath heron. In other words, it's quite big. Good. So now that we've sorted that out, we're going to watch it fish for a little while, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it while you wait for it to catch something useful. That is, if I can find it, of course, on my bird app. Yes, there it is. Right, now, what you're looking for here, and it's not very clear at all, is the rufous back to the head and neck, and then what immediately alerted me to it from this rather... well, shall we say, less than ideally exposed picture, was the spotting on the front of the neck. So there's quite a lot of spotting there. Now, this bird is large. It is 1.43 meters tall. Excuse me. That makes it exactly 1 foot shorter than me. So it is about 4 feet and 8 inches tall when it's, when it's stretching out and standing on its tippy toes. I think it may have... What it's doing there, you can see, is feeling with its feet. Very sensitive feet. And it's just going to see if it doesn't disturb something, or if something doesn't sort of float by, or it's not going to be floating, it's going to be drifting by subsurface. And although this one is eating fish and frogs, they also eat small mammals up to the size of about a baby wildebeest. That's obviously rubbish. They don't eat anything like the size of a baby wildebeest. When they say small mammals, they mean things like gerbils, mice, rats, that sort of thing. Hamsters, but don't worry, we don't have many hamsters here. So it's not waiting here for a wildebeest crossing so that it can nab a little one. Jacqueline, you say, how tall is it? Well, my whole speech about my height and its height relative indicates that it's about 4 foot 8, 1.43 meters tall is how large it is, and it weighs in at about 9 pounds or so, 4.3 kilograms. And it is the world's largest heron, believe it or not. You have to believe it, because I said it. Isn't that nice? Now, what I want to do is zoom out from the river, and you saw there with Jamie that the river was full. You saw that it was raging in many parts over the... Oh, there's our elephant. You saw it was raging in many parts over those rapids, and it has definitely come up. And when we were asked this question, in fact, can we go to Main North? Let's go and have just a quick look there. We were asked the question a little while back. Can we go to Main North? Hello? There we are, well done, beautiful. Right, Main North, there we go. And we were asked the question a little while back as to whether or not the rains had stopped, and I confidently told you that the long rains end in June, and so no, there was going to be no more rain, and therefore the river was unlikely to come up anymore. Well, I told an absolute untruth, and that's simply because I didn't really understand this ecosystem. As you can see very clearly from there, if you look up above the river, there is clearly a lot of moisture in the sky. We've had a huge amount of rain this week. On Sunday, in fact, Fergus and I spent until about 11 o'clock at night trying to escape from 2 or 3 enormous storms out in the field. So that was quite... We did one segment into the show and then we had to run for our lives. And there has been a lot of rain, and what that's done is bring the river up, definitely. And I'm sure it's not only here that there's rain, because of course those clouds that you can see there are not going to affect the water levels of the water that you can see here. But up in the Mao Escarpment, I imagine there's a lot of rain falling, and that's why we have this sort of situation here. Let's go back to Main South, if we can, to have a look at the heron, who has been standing dead still and not caught anything at all. I'm sure he will at some stage, but you know, they're infinitely patient, these things, infinitely more patient than someone like I. Hello, John. You're wondering if herons can swim if they're able to. Well, I mean, in so much as someone like I can swim, I suppose. I don't think they'd sink to the bottom and drown, but I think that they'd probably flap around a lot and look very inelegant. So, yes, a little bit like a human being doing the dog paddle. They wouldn't be able to swim very effectively, but I don't think they'd drown. They'd almost certainly float, and because they spend so much time in water, you can be very sure that their feathers would be very well waterproofed. They'll have a lot of oil on them, and so I suppose they could drown if that oil was insufficiently kept, what shall we say, insufficiently kept in trim, if you like, or kept in place by regular preening. Then I suppose the feathers could become, what is the word I'm searching for here? It's not inundated. A sponge becomes what? Saturated. Thank you, Louise. It becomes saturated, and then it would, of course, sink like a stone. Well, perhaps a little slower than that. So no, I don't think swimming is their strong point, but they could do it. There's a wagtail, pied wagtail. Let's go and have a look there. Hello, wagtail. Very nice. And he'll be looking for little insects, and all around the water, of course, and in fact around every single bush, as we've always told you on Bushwalk, every single little plant here and little tidal, or what should we say, tidal inlet here is a source of food for all sorts of creatures. It's a source of life for small plants and vertebrates, and eventually up to the size of these birds. And they'll all be eating something slightly different, and that's how they all survive together. There will most certainly be some overlap, but that's how they manage to live together. Isn't that cool? Oh, there's a 3-shot, everybody. We've got, in fact, when that martin flaps in front of the camera, we've got a 4-shot. A 4-shot of martin, there we go. A wagtail, a Goliath heron. Oh, that would look like a canary, and, of course, the elephant in the background. Let's go across to him. Oh, James, you want to know how big of a fish the heron can take down? I mean, I think take down is possibly the wrong word, given that the fish is already down. I think you'll find that the maximum size fish is probably, I would guess, if he's about 4'8", the size of his beak, sitting at around 3/4 of a foot. I'm going to say a fish probably about just over a foot, maybe 1 foot and 1 foot and 2 inches. I would say that's probably about the size. I'll just see if I can find some information on that. But it doesn't say necessarily that they... it doesn't give me any sizes here of the fish that they caught. No. No, here we go. Most fish between 150 and 500 millimeters. So 500 millimeters is half a meter, which of course is 1.5 feet. So it's 1 foot, well, just under that. So about 1 foot and 4 inches is the longest one. Now that's most of them, so they will catch bigger ones, and exceptionally up to the size 1.5 kilograms. That is 4 pounds of feech. That's quite a lot of feech. I'm not sure I could eat a 4-pound feech. Right, Jamie is still on the banks of the northern Mara River near Kichwatembo, hopefully not about to get rained upon by that rain. So let's go back to her now.
I hope not. It looks as though the weather's going to hold out for a little while longer. We're not going to dash for safety, but these wildebeest might. Once again, oh, here we go. Back we go. Once again, they followed the zebra down to the water's edge. The zebra went away, and the wildebeest now don't know what to do. And back up they go. It's like they forget that the river's there. They follow the zebra and then go, uh-oh. There's a big body of water, and then while the front runners have realized that, the rest of them are all still following behind, pushing up from behind and going, what's going on? Why has everybody stopped? And then they stand around looking confused for a while, make some confused gnuing noises, and then back they go on their next strange mission. I didn't actually pay any attention to what the weather was doing. Seems as though there is a storm blowing in. I think we'll be okay though. Let's go forward a bit. Oh, hello. All peering down at us. Hopefully our signal should be okay here. Now what? And we all go back again. And off to our left, the zebra stand there looking innocent, as if to say, who us? Lead the wildebeest? Never. This would definitely not be a very good place to cross. So I think these zebra have worked out for themselves. Oh, nobody panic. One thing I keep thinking is, I know there are leopards along the Mara River that capitalize on the migration and these crossings. I wonder what the chances are. This is not a good place for a crossing. This side's fine. That side is not. That is not possible. No matter how nimble the wildebeest may be. I'm going to follow these zebra. It seems to be what the wildebeest are doing. Perhaps they know something I don't. Oh, there's still more coming. And they're now all stampeding back behind me. Never mind. Where's everybody going? Okay. Let's go round back to where we started off the afternoon safari. Back to the rapids and the crossing points. And let's just have a look at what's happening on the opposite side of the bank. Because a lot of the time the animals tend to respond to each other, calling on the opposite sides. This is very pretty though. Just quickly, just a quick view of the Mara River. It is so beautiful. This is definitely one of the prettiest spots. Enjoying the view of the Mara River, Tara is about to take you to one of the prettier places on Juma.
Oh, do you know what? I'd love to see Jamie's hat. If it's the one that I'm thinking of, it looks brilliant. Welcome back, everybody. We're just scanning down through a drainage line here on our left on Weaver's Nest Road. There's no tracks coming out of the block. There's quite a few vehicles in that area. Someone's already checking out Treehouse Dam. I think they'll be making their way to water, or will be in the cooler drainage line, because it is quite nice, but it is very warm. So that's where my money is, that they're in one of those drainage lines or by the water. But as I say, we've got quite a lot of eyes out, so we're just all scanning the bush paper, seeing if there's any sign of where they might have gone. And we'll do another loop back around towards Zoe's, Rebecca's, see if we can't find them coming out. So I don't know if anyone came back about the gestation of the Steenbok, just to remind me. We did. Richard saying about 170 days. So yeah, I think that's about what I was saying, about 5 or 6 months. Ah, so the old grey matter still works. This is good to know. Thanks, Richard. So, heading towards Chelapan. I think it was quite dry, but it's quite thick bush around here. But we'll head up towards Voyatella Dam and, as I say, cut back round onto Zoe's, Rebecca's, just in case they have slipped by and we haven't seen any of the tracks. Did I just see movement through there? I thought I saw movement. Oh, I did see movement. There's somebody there, but what is it? It's another Steenbok, I think. Yes, there we go, another Steenbok. We've actually been seeing quite a few Steenbok, and I think because the vegetation has died back a bit, we're able to see them just that little bit clearer. God, that was a good spot, guys. Oh, there's some crossing. Got some tracks on the road. So still just reading the paper. We'll see. These are usually really nice pans, especially during the summer. Now, when I first started, these were very small, and all it takes is a little puddle in the ground to form, and then maybe a warthog will come along and maybe roll in the mud and wallow, maybe the hyena. And then you might get the odd buffalo or rhino or elephant to also roll in the mud. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually you get this huge mud wallow. They'll then become larger pans, and then maybe eventually small pools. But this is going to be a lovely spot, and you can see the elephants have already been around here. You can see all the dung here, and there's a few elephant tracks actually mixed in around there as well, and I see there's 1 or 2 buffalo tracks that have dried. But really quite amazing to see how big this has got over the past, what, 4 years or so? So these used to be very shallow when I was first guiding here. So we're heading towards Chelapan. Oh, and there we go. Actually, let me just show you the elephant scratching post opposite the mud wallow. For those you might not have seen an elephant scratching post, that's quite nice. You can really see how far up the mud is. So when they put the mud on their bodies, that helps to keep them cool, but it also helps to protect their skin, especially animals like the rhinos and the elephants and the warthogs. But it also allows the mud to be caked in the body, and then it will fill in the cracks, and it will also attach any parasites to it as well. So as the animal rubs off the mud, once it's dried, it will actually pull out the parasites as well. So it's got many different properties about it. And as I say, I think the animals seem to have a wonderful time. It's really quite hysterical to see a rhino or a buffalo rolling in the mud, and they actually kick themselves right over, so they actually roll over like a little puppy dog, and they just seem to have absolute fun in the mud. And especially on a very hot day, it really does look like you want to just join them in there. So very nice to see. So we're going to carry on around. I'm still not picking up any leopard tracks, but to say hopefully plenty of other things to find as well. Maybe some elephants, seems as they have left a lot of their dung around. Oh, I'm very, very jealous, James. I would love to see what you guys are about to see. It's been a long time. Enjoy the Goliath heron, everybody.
Well, yes, it probably has been a long time, but Tara, if you bide your time, you will see a Goliath heron there at Juma. Obviously, you know that. Now, this heron, I think, may have eaten a fish. I have to confess to you that I have not been watching it full time while you've been away. I've been watching many of the other cameras and indeed watching the rest of the drive. And this heron is either not feeling very well or is perhaps suffering from the effects of a lot of scales that have got stuck in its throat. I'm not sure which. Anyway, there he is. Hardly moved a muscle since we last saw you. There is our elephant friend. Let's go and have a look and see what he's doing. And I will also show you the extent to which the storm has moved from where you last saw it. Let's have a look at him there. He looks like a bit of a lonely fellow for some reason. I'm not sure why I say that. Of course, elephants are supposed to be alone when they're this age and old. But he just looks a bit mournful. Yes, you do. And Jessica, you wanted to see one of the big five. Well, Jessica, I'm going to say goody. I'm glad we've managed to show you one of the big five. And then I'm going to say to you, please, if you can avoid it, don't ever use the term again. And I'll tell you why. It's a term, I think, that is, well, slightly disrespectful to all the African wildlife out here, and I'll tell you why. And I don't mean to chastise or scold you at all. I'm just going to tell you where it comes from. It comes from an old hunting term, and it described the animals that were the most dangerous to hunt. So if your bent is to come into an area like this and destroy wildlife, well, that's basically where it comes from. So, you know, we still use it a lot in tourism and in photographic tourism, and in fact we use it on the show from time to time. But for me it's a term that I think should have gone out with the practice of slavery, frankly. And now, better perhaps is the term high-profile game. So this is a high-profile animal. It's obviously an animal that everyone wants to see for good reason. It's a keystone species. It's big, it's magnificent, it's beautiful. It's well, it's certainly threatened by human activities. And so included in the high-profile game, we would include elephants, obviously. We'd include both species of rhino that we get here. We'd include lions and leopards. And what's the other one I'm missing out? Buffalo as well. Those were the traditional big five. But then we'd also include things like cheetah and wild dog and hippo, which are all high-profile again, and all iconic species that people want to come and see. And you know, when people used to come on safari with me, and I'd say, well, as we sat down to tea over a very nice piece of homemade chocolate cake and some coffee, delicious, makes my mouth water thinking of it, I'd say, well, what do you want to see while you're here? And many people, because they'd been sold down the Big Five route by their travel agents, I mean, that's where it comes from largely these days, would say, we want to see the Big Five. And I'd say, but don't you want to see giraffe? And they'd say, oh, yes, of course we want to see giraffe. And I'd say, but they're not part of the Big Five, aren't they? No, they're not. And don't you want to see wild dogs and cheetah and kudu and all those special creatures that are not part of the Big Five? So I've kind of waffled on at you now about why I don't use the term Big Five, but perhaps you will choose either to continue using it or perhaps heed what I've said. I'm not sure. Let's head across to Maine North now. And what we will find at Maine North is that the storm, you can see, is moving around, but it is definitely going great guns in the far north of the reserve. Here it is. Oh, that looks quite scary. So if I was down there, I'd be pretty nervous. Now, I'll point the camera in the direction of where Jamie is. She's around about there, just over the top of those trees. So you can see how isolated the storms are. Yes, of course, it's building above her, but in fact, it's not building above her at all. So that's obviously in front of her. And in fact, if we go to the mountain cam, can we go to mountain cam? It just takes a little while to figure out all the controls. There we go. Well done, Louise. We're going to go across to where Jamie is. I'll show you now. Let's go up a bit. You can see a little speck of white there. That basically is the area. Oh, in fact, you can see 1,000 cars. That's exactly where Jamie is. She's around there. That's where the crossing is. And you can see, oh, there's a bird flying across there. You can see all of those thousands of wildebeest covering the plains there. And that is round about where Jamie is. So you can see there's still sun in that region, which is very nice. Isn't that wonderful? Ian, you say how many wildebeest cross the river each year? Ian, I'm going to give you a wild guess, because I'm not sure that anyone has ever actually calculated it. If I look at the map, and I wonder if we can do this. We probably can, as long as I don't actually appear myself on the screen, because I have to tell you that I'm looking a little dishevelled today. How's that, Louise? Is that in focus? Right, there is the map, everybody. Please excuse my camera work. And what we can see there, can you see that river that cuts basically, just on top of the black arrows there, you can see a river. That river, of course, cuts the entire, here we go, look at this, everybody, looking slightly less dishevelled. We have Mr. Espen de Boer. There he is. No, not that one, the top one, the Mara, if we don't mind. There we go. You can see the Mara, the Mara River and the Sand River there absolutely cut off the line of migration. And so what that means is that all of the wildebeest that come into the triangle or into the Maasai Mara must cross a river. And if it's not the if it's not the Mara River and the Sand River, it will be the Grumeti to the south of that. There we go. You can see. There it is. So they must cross a river. And so I'm going to say, therefore, that 1.5 million wildebeest must cross a river at one or other time during the course of the migration. So, you know, as many wildebeest as there are, that's how many are going to migrate. All right, let's go back to the river. Well done. I shall endeavour everybody next time to look slightly less dishevelled than I am. I'm wearing a T-shirt. Can you believe it? Alrighty, so that's what's going on there. The elephant has now decided he is going to leave. He's had enough. And the heron, uber patient, waiting for a catfish, I suspect, to swim into his feet, whereupon he'll stab it. And that's all that's going on in the rivers, I'm afraid. And you can see still plenty of grass the other side, so I think those wildebeest are going to come back. And just behind this crossing today, there were thousands and thousands of wildebeest knocking about the place. But nothing here at the moment. All right, let's go across to Cul-de-sac crossing, where I think we've got a few... No, Louise, that is a dusty crossing, my dear. We've got about 500 controls. And there we got hippos, and normally there are lots of crocodiles lurking around here somewhere, but not at the moment. which I suppose no, that's not. That's a bit of floating debris. And you know, about 2 weeks ago, Steph narrated and saw a quite horrific scene here where wildebeest were falling into the water on top of themselves, on top of each other, and it littered about 50 bodies in this little bay. And that's all been cleaned up by the crocodiles and the catfish, and probably just the action of sun and water on rotting flesh. Isn't that cheerful? Anyway, that's why I would never put my face in this water and drink out of it. You would get probably quite sick. And although, you know, we tend to think of rivers and flowing water as being much cleaner than... Oh, I wonder if that chap's not looking at a lion. Let's go and have a look. Oh, he's looking at the crocs there. We tend to think of rivers and or flowing water as being cleaner than stagnant water. There are also some white-faced whistling ducks there. That's not always the case at all. You'll find in many instances that flowing water like this is very dirty to drink because, of course, so many animals come down to it and drink in it. As you've seen with the buffalo at Juma, they have absolutely no compunction whatsoever about going to the loo in the water, and so there's a lot of muck flowing down in amongst the silt and water of the Mara River. And if you're going to drink out of it, you need to have a very, well, shall we say, hyena-like, in fact, Brent Leo Smith-like level of digestive juices. Apparently we're going to stay here. I think we have 1 or 2 issues with signal. Anyway, that's fine. We can do that. There's lots going on at this crossing. Let's look beyond there. There we go. Some more hippopotami. Now, there are some pretty good prospects, I think, in the Sabi Sand for finding Tingana mating with Tundi, so let's go and find out how that search is going.
But give you a chance. Now, I wonder if James Henry reckons, after I watched him collect water in the Mulawati a few months ago for happiness, he collected a nice big dirty bottle of water, and I wonder which one he thinks would be worse for you, the Mara River water or the water of the Mulawati. I feel like the Mulawati at least had a bit of filtering process through the sand and wasn't really that stagnant. It had been dug up by elephants and was kind of bubbling up from the undergrowth, so I wonder if he thinks that would be better than the one that is at the Mara River. Now, we have been in the Mulawati, we've been gremlin filled and they've been all over us, but it was a beautiful drive as we tried to make our way out. Lots of big trees in the Mulawati and sunshine and birds and happiness, really. It's one of those drives when you drive through there that makes you very happy. Now, there is something on the other side of our drainage line that I don't think we've seen this afternoon. Have we seen them this afternoon? We saw them this morning, I know that. But there are some very elegant kudu that are walking on the other side there. It looks like a little baby in amongst them that's trying to see over the back of everybody else and see what's going on. There it is, in amongst all of the adults and the sub-adult males. You can see the sub-adult male there with his horns that have come out. So he'll be just over a year old. And they're stopping and listening now because I've stopped and they can hear me talking, and they're just checking around, making sure that there isn't a predator somewhere associated with the position that I'm in, and that's why those ears are working and all looking in different directions. You might find also that somewhere in the drainage line might be a nyala or a bushbuck or something like that that's walking down below, and that's also why they're looking over their shoulder into that area. But they are some of the most beautiful animals. I really like that striping pattern that they've got and those big muscular shoulders that they use to be able to jump and to get away from prey, from predators by jumping over them. I've even seen them jump over a lion, actually, which was quite something. So the lions had set up a perfect ambush, and then the kudu got chased towards them, and as it was at that point where the lioness looked like she was about to grab it, she was standing dead in front. This kudu female just jumped straight to actually escape. It was really quite something. And there was a set of pictures going around for a while of a big male kudu that jumped over a set of lions on a road somewhere, which was quite phenomenal to see. So they really are very athletic animals, and that comes down to that massive big muscular structure around the shoulder blades and neck area that allows them to be able to get the force to lift such a heavy body over such a tall animal, well, not tall, but a jumping lion. So you'll find that these guys are very interesting when they do that. But I love how their ears also move and act just like satellite dishes. It's always quite interesting to watch them as they maneuver themselves around. And so Tamara, you agree with the loving of the ears. You say you love kudu and especially the ears. The ears are very cool on a kudu. They look almost Mickey Mouse like, don't they? The way that they look at you, and then these big rounded ears that come off. And I like the white dots and bit of facial markings that they have. Now that white that you see between the eyes is not there for show. It's all there to help with a bit of light into the eyes. Remember that kudu spend a lot of their time in dense, thick undergrowth like what we see on the edges of these drainage lines, and so it's often shady and dark in there, and that white just helps to bring a little bit of extra light into the eye. And you see it on things like lion and leopard, which just aids in a bit of the vision. Unfortunately, though, they are disappearing. They do camouflage very well in these thickets, and that's why they spend a lot of time here. So we're going to carry on as well. Our kudu are disappearing. Right, it's that time of the day that it's leopard or lion time. I have a good feeling that between Tara and myself we are going to find one of the cats. It's that time of the day that you get that feeling that they are starting to wake up. It's cooling off a little bit, sun's getting low. It just feels that perfect time for a leopard. As Seb always tells me at this time of the day is where he says it's leopard time. So let's go with Seb's saying, and hopefully we will be able to find one of the cats this afternoon. It's been a really good run. We've had cats pretty much most drives, and I'm so glad that Tara got the leopards this morning, and hopefully she'll be able to find another one at some stage this afternoon. I think I'm going to try and concentrate more on the lions now than the leopards and see if I can't get into that area. I've put it off for long enough this afternoon, and it's probably because this morning when I was following tracks all morning I got a little bit of a headache from following all of these tracks, so hopefully it will be better this afternoon. I think subconsciously I'm putting it off just because I don't really want to follow tracks all afternoon and for nothing. So I'm hoping that now that it's cooled down, maybe they'll start to move a little bit, make their way up towards Buffelshoek Dam for a drink, and we'll find them all lounging on the dam wall. Wouldn't that be quite nice? So that's the plan, and that's where we're going to aim to get to. Of course, plans don't always work out the way you want. Ooh, Snazzy, you want to know what my favorite season is? Well, Snazzy, difficult here because our spring and our autumn or fall are very short. We don't have a very long one. They're normally about 3-4 weeks and then they're done. So difficult to really count those as a part of our seasons. But for me, my favorite time of the year would be that transition and that going from spring to summer, that quick process that we have here in the Sabi Sands, when we start to see everything going from this drab brown starting to turn a nice bright green color, and you're getting all these different layers of green throughout the trees and the grass. You start to see all the insects, the migratory birds come back, baby animals start to come out, so you see a lot of baby impalas and baby bushbuck and nyala and kudu, and it really makes for a sort of experience and a feel that everything is just bursting with life, and I love that. So that's my favorite time of the year as we transition out of the winter and into the summer. So I would say spring, if you want to call it that, although it's more like a extended summer, the beginning part of summer, that I enjoy. I know it does get hot here, and a lot of other guys will disagree with me and they'll say winter because the sightings are better, but there's just something about having big thunderstorms and life abounding everywhere around you that really makes me quite happy. So that's my favorite time of the year. Craig, what about you? You don't know? Summer. You're also a summer kid. Craig's from Durban, so he probably dreads summer because of the amount of humidity that you get in a Durban summer. It's not very pleasant at all. It's about 90% humidity down there, so it gets quite warm in that side of the world. So I'd imagine maybe spring. Is spring not better, Craig? Summer's still good. It's because you go surfing and you go and do your thing, that's why. I suppose if you're in the ocean, it's not really, it doesn't matter how hot it is outside. Right, now this is the road where we had the last tracks for these lions. Whether or not we're going to find them is anyone's guess because, well, it's not an easy place to be able to spend too much time, time tracking, because there's long grass and it's hard roads and hard areas, but we'll try our best and see what we can find. But I believe Tara has pipped me to the post again this afternoon, and she's managed to pull out one of the cats.
Ew, it is just like the buses, isn't it? And I'm so glad that we have got rid of our leopard drought, and it's lovely to catch up with Temba, who is Tandy's cub, almost a year old. So we did have Tandy first thing this morning mating with Tingana. Now what's interesting is myself and Tristan were actually discussing this over breakfast, trying to work out why she might be mating even though she has a cub that's dependent, and I did ask Tristan if he'd seen her with Temba recently, and it was a couple of days ago, so he is still with her, he's still interacting with her, still dependent on her. So it could possibly be because unfortunately there's not a lot of literature out there because leopards are so elusive, believe it or not. We're very lucky here in the Sabi Sands that the sands have been a game reserve since decades ago, so they've gotten used to people, movement, vehicles over quite a long period of time, so they're actually a lot more relaxed around vehicles than what leopards are in other parts of the country. So we're now starting to learn more about leopard behaviour because we are actually able to witness it, whereas in years gone by what's been written in books is literally from one person in one place, and that's snapshots of their lives. So I think I'm going to leave you with that thought, and I'll discuss a little bit more when you come back.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tara, but I've finally found some signal. I've been sitting here since I last left you. Just a few moments after that, I came around the corner to be watching the biggest crossing I have seen in my time in the Mara. I don't know how many wildebeest have crossed here, thousands of them, and they're still pushing through across the banks against the tide. Obviously not all of them have made it, and they started up a little bit further upstream, and I just couldn't find any signal to show you it. And then luckily one of the vehicles moved away and we were able to nick his spot, and we've managed. So there you go, the crossing that we've been waiting for all afternoon. This is the best view that we can get of it, apparently. And obviously you can see that some of the wildebeest haven't made it. A couple of them have drowned in the course of this. This is exactly, you can see how incredibly unlucky some of them have been. They've just taken slightly the wrong path and got caught in the currents. And this is where it becomes really difficult for them. All the little ones, not as tall, not as heavy, not as strong as the adults. Oh, baby. Come on, you can do it. It's not too deep. You just have to find your footing and then you'll be okay. Then you'll be okay. Come on. There you go, see? That's not so bad. Rest against the rocks. Let them hold you down. And then push for the bank. It's not far now. Not far. You go, you're so close, and unfortunately that's as much as we can see. Oh, no, you're going the wrong way, you silly twit. Obviously they can't get up there. It's horrible to watch, it's very hard to watch. Haven't been any crocodile kills. In fact, we only saw one crocodile and it kind of drifted past the wildebeest. But watching them battle the currents, and I know that for some of, for all of you actually, this isn't easy to watch. This battle that they have to go through. And I'm sorry for those of you for whom this is really upsetting. Obamba Girl, exactly. What a horrible place to cross. Less chance of crocodiles, but at the same time, this fierce, fierce current. And whilst this might have been okay about a week ago, since we've had that huge storm. The Mara River is still flowing very powerfully, and these rocks are vicious. This actually probably would have been a perfect place to cross a week ago. They could see the rocks, they could navigate them, but now the little one's caught up in the current. Oh, why didn't you cross where the others were crossing? This crossing has just become really hard to watch. The others were doing fine. They were just that little bit upstream, and they were managing. But now these wildebeest have got caught up in the crush. They've taken the wrong line. Oh, you silly creatures. Oh, this has become really horrible. Watching them earlier was actually really quite enjoyable because not one of them got killed. They were all making it to the other side. Now all of a sudden one wildebeest has led them wrong, and they're just not strong enough to fight the current. And they're panicking and they're getting stuck. They're finding themselves in places where they can't cross. Valiant struggle. I really wanted to show you a really nice crossing, actually. That's what we've been waiting for, but now all of a sudden this has become... Oh. It's every wildebeest for themselves. I'll spork in the road, having watched the poor calves struggling to get to the other side. You want to know if this is the first crossing for them? No, I don't think so. I think this would probably be at least their second. Oh, look, it made it back onto the other side. Oh, you clever little mite, but now you've got to start again from scratch. That's the one that was stuck, that couldn't get up out of on the right. Well done, little one. It swam all the way back to start again. So no, this is not their first crossing. They already would have crossed the Mara River at least once, or if they've come from Tanzania on the western side, then they would have had to cross several rivers in that area as well. So it wouldn't be their first river crossing, I wouldn't have thought. Oh, but what a terrible place to have chosen. Absolute chaos now. Sheer panic has set in. They were doing so well. Where that dead wildebeest is on the right, that was where they were crossing earlier, and they were forging ahead. But now it's just littered with drowned wildebeest. Oh no, now they're being swept even further downstream. Individuals clutching onto rocks. This is horrible. Richard, yes, canoes can swim. They swim quite strongly. I've watched them swim across there. Look, there's a swimming one. That little calf swimming. I'm just going to go forward. I know it's a risk because of our signal, but I have to see how they're going to get out of this. It is a risk. Oh, I don't want to go any further. How are we doing, Lou? Are we okay? Good. That's as far as I think I'm going to risk it. Oh, I don't think we're even going to see how they're going to get out the other side. This is terrible. It went from the most peaceful crossing I've witnessed, where the vast majority were making it safely across, to now. I'm assuming those of you for whom this is too difficult to watch, I assume you've already turned off. I know it's all part of the great circle of life and everything. It doesn't make it pleasant. No, there's no point in struggling back up there. You can't get out there. I think this is getting a bit much, everyone. I think we're probably going to leave this sighting now and let the wildebeest make their way across in peace. Let's go across to something much more cheerful in Juma, Little Tamba.
Sure. That sounds like an absolute epic crossing that you've just witnessed there in the Mara. Back here in South Africa, we have some movement from Temba. Now, he's been yawning quite a lot, which tends to suggest he's trying to get oxygen into his bloodstream, so it's oxygenating his muscles, and that's going to be ready for him to get up and move. I'm just hoping he's not going to go south, because at the moment he's on the property that we can't go onto, so we need to, everybody will him to come this way. So if everyone collectively thinks go north, it might work. So as I said before, leopards are so elusive, and we are really learning about leopard behaviour, and you guys are actually learning with us. So it could well be, I think Tristan put quite a good argument forward, that Tandy has not been in as far into the Juma area as she has done today, and it could well be that she's come into a false estrus to try and sort of align herself with the big male in the area. And that makes a lot of sense to me, and I think that's a good argument for what's been going on. So it could be that she doesn't fall pregnant from that encounter, or it could be that this little boy is actually becoming independent and actually it is a true estrus. So it's certainly going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. But generally speaking, what we have known in the past is that females will go and mate once the offspring has left. But as we learnt today and in the past, sometimes it doesn't work like that. Okay. I can't see the other vehicle. I can't hear it. So there's another vehicle that's just joined us. Pisces Bobby, definitely a gorgeous kitty cat. And he is beautiful. I can see he's actually got the markings like Mishu, his half-brother. He's about 3 years old. So we've just had a vehicle pull in to the sighting, so we're just taking them off camera for you because we are live at the end of the day, so we just got to work around the other guys because obviously all the guests want to have a nice view of the animals as well. But I think they've pulled in now, so we can go back to him. But so his half-brother Mishu had the little Y at the corner of his eyes. Hi Richard, and that is a question that we'd all like the answer to. How many leopards are there in Africa? Because leopard are quite widespread, I think they've gone under the radar a little bit. I think people have overestimated leopard numbers quite dramatically, and there was actually a paper that came out last year that then questioned. I think there's going to be another vehicle. Oh, I think that might be a different sighting then. So I just might have to make space for somebody to come in. So, as I say, it is difficult because they are just so elusive. So it has been difficult to count them. But now with technology, with camera traps and things like that, as I've been using in my own research, we've actually been able to shed light on the fact that perhaps there's not as many leopards as what people think. They actually think now that they've been reduced from about 70% of their original range. Now that's a huge amount of decrease. There we go. He's up and moving. No, wrong way, come this way. Temba, come here. I don't want you to go that way. They always say don't work with children and animals, and this is exactly why. They don't do what you ask them to. Look at that. And gone. And that's exactly why it's so difficult to know exactly how many leopards there are, because 1 minute they're there and next minute they're gone, and if they don't want to be seen, you will not see a leopard. I am so chuffed we got a chance to see him though, but I think he is going to carry on south. I had that inkling that that's what he was going to do. He kept looking off into that direction, but magic to see him, and I'm glad you guys got to see him as well. So we've seen another member of Karula's clan, if you like, Tandy obviously being Karula's first cub and Temba's mother. So really amazing to see some of those patterns crossing down. So we're going to head back towards Twin Dams. So I think Tristan is still hot on the trail. I really hope Tristan finds these lions, because he has put so much work in to finding them today. So really, fingers crossed, I think he really deserves to see those lions, and you guys do too. So he's going to give you an update on what he's found so far. Good luck, Tristan.
Well, thank you, Tara. I hope that we do see them too. So far, no real signs coming out of this block, and I tried to follow the tracks that we had, but it gets so thick, as you can see over here. This is what it looks like all the way down, and it is literally impossible for us to get a vehicle anywhere in there. So even if we find them in this, it's going to be almost a sort of bittersweet moment, because we're not going to be able to get anywhere near them. So I was hoping that we'd come here to the dam and that they'd be out and about on the dam wall, but alas, I don't see anything. Now, funny enough, the first time I ever saw an Nkuhuma female was here at this dam, which sounds strange, but it was when I was at Cheetah and I came on a afternoon game drive with some of the people from Juma, and we found one of the Matimbas and Nkuhuma actually sitting here at the dam. So that was the first time that I managed to see them, so I was hoping a little bit of a repeat performance to see them here. And funnily enough, I actually haven't seen a cat at Buffelshoek Dam yet. What there is at Buffelshoek Dam, which is our obligatory hippos, they're having a pretty much normal time in the water. They're bobbing about and heads are underwater as per normal with these two. They don't really get up to too much, and they're waiting for the sun to go down before they decide to start actually moving properly. So I don't expect too much energy from these guys just yet. I'm hoping that maybe if we sit for long enough, we might get a yawn out of one of them. At least we've got a bit of a spray of water. That's at least a little bit of activity. And that's the male that's on the left that we can see there, and the one on the right doesn't look nearly as large, so I wonder if it's not a female that he's got here in his thing, or it could be a young male. Now, if both of these are not territorial and there's no females around, you'll find that they actually can be quite tolerant of one another. It's often reported that hippos tend to go after each other, particularly males, and they fight quite a bit. But when there's no females around, they're actually not too bad, especially in a space like this where there's quite a bit of water that they can move around. Interestingly enough, they're right next to one another, so we'll see now when they pop up, because the one should pop up right in front of the other one. There we go. Now, I was hoping we were going to get a nice call, because he grunted the sort of start of his call, but we didn't get a follow-up from there. I love a hippo call. It's one of my favorite things, and it's one of those sounds that is synonymous with Africa. When you hear those hippos calling, you know that you're in somewhere in Africa, and generally in a very beautiful part of Africa, because it's normally a waterway of some sort. And particularly when I worked down at Lion Sands on the Sabi River, I used to hear them every night, and it was my favorite sort of soundtrack to go to sleep to. I suppose at Cheetah I used to hear them all the time too, because they were all in the dam in front as well. So, Machine Gun Nest, you think that hippos look like giant hamsters? I suppose they do a little bit, don't they? Minus the fur, but they are quite round and sort of short little legs and a little bit of a long face. So I would say that's fairly accurate. If we maybe we should stick some fur on one day and see how that looks. It'd be quite funny to have an oversized hamster running around. I think it would petrify most people. They also have a dental structure like rodents with massive teeth, although those are incisors on a rodent and not a canine like what we see here. Although these are incisors too. These are modified incisors that come out, so that actually is true. It would be quite funny to see a hairy hippo running around. Certainly would entertain me, that's for sure. But like I say, otherwise it's quite quiet. I thought we would see some terrapins. Actually, there are some terrapins on the other side. So to the left, Craig, by the pile of dung. There we go, straight in from there. So there's a whole bunch of terrapins that are getting the last of the afternoon sun. I thought we would see a few more of them straight behind the hippo. They often lie in that other area, but there are a couple of them. You see one's going back into the water. It's decided enough for the afternoon. Time to head home, and back into the water they'll go. Now the reason why they spend more time in water during the night is because of all the predators that are around. You'll find things like genets and civets and servals and caracals and wildcats and leopard and lion and hyena. These are all things that are going to be quite dangerous for a terrapin. So rather than spending time outside and having to worry about those things, as well as the temperature is going to drop drastically during the night, and that means as a small little reptile being in the water will hold its temperature a lot more than what being out on land would be. So what's happening here? Our hippo is doing a little dance under the water. You can see lots of ripples. What are you doing? I think he might have been rolling around under the water, because the water went a very odd wave structure that came out. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? They have the most incredible yawn. Lions are impressive when they yawn, but nothing beats a hippo's yawn, especially in light like this. Jacqueline, I think you hit the nail on the head. You've said that hippos remind you of submarines, the way that they lower themselves down slowly and then they just pop up with their eyes and their ears. It's almost like they are going down and then scoping out what's happening above land and sneaking up on things. So I think that's a perfect analogy when it comes to them. Although he's not doing a very good submarine impression right now by just shoving his head underwater and leaving the rest of his body out. He'll have to practice his maneuvering and trying to get himself right. But I can tell you one thing, it is really very peaceful here at Vulture Dam. There might not be any lions lying on the dam wall and the hippos might be quite quiet, but it is so nice just to sit in the late afternoon and listen to the birds chirping and have the hippos sort of blowing water every now and then and just taking it all in. And there's such beautiful light being cast across the dam at the moment that it is a very pleasant way to spend one's afternoon, that's for sure. I'm just listening as well, just in case there is any alarm calls. It will be this time of the day that we were talking about it earlier, that cats might move around, and it's possible that we might see some sort of sign of the lions moving, and then, you know, an alarm call from then. Now, I believe that Jamie Patterson in her fancy hat, maybe the wind has gotten up because she's now decided that she's going to start slowly maneuvering her way back to base camp. So let's go catch up with her before she gets home.
We're racing to make the gate closing time, but I just wanted to show you something kind of cool, because we've just watched the death and destruction of the river crossing, and I think it's the hardest part is watching them drown and stampede over each other. And just have a look at this. I mean, I can handle a crocodile and the lion kills, no problem, but there's something very difficult about it when they drown each other. However, it's important for us to remember that we're looking at this as humans, and we don't quite understand nature's scale. We look at it from a human perspective, from an individual perspective. And the proportion of those that die compared to those that live is so small. A drop in the metaphorical ocean of Wildebeest. That is beautiful, Fergus. Most beautiful. But now it's time to go. You forgot what you needed? Yeah. That was a beautiful shot. Okay. Onwards we go. So while we speed back up towards the escarpment, the wildebeest actually smell quite nice, but Tara's got something that is really rather smelly.
Hi everybody, and I can totally understand where Jamie's coming from. It's always a heart-wrenching thing to see. But we do have some Waterbuck bulls here for you. Really impressive, and I haven't seen Waterbuck since I've been back. But they really are rather impressive. Look at those horns. And you can see the ridges really nicely on those horns. Now when they actually fight, they could slip and injure each other, and that's not the whole point of fighting. The fighting is actually to test each other's strength. So those ridges on the horn actually stop the horns from slipping. So when they are fighting, they can interlock, and then they can really put the strength to the test. And you'll find that on many of the antelope species if you look carefully enough, but they're really quite prominent on the Waterbuck. Yeah, hello. Beautiful. And you can see that long mane there as well. Males, because they have an oil that helps to waterproof that fur, because as the name suggests, they do hang around water quite a lot, and they'll quite often go into water to get away from predators. Hi, Paula. Paula just asking about Waterbuck and why they smell so much. Now I'm just going to try and move back. We might be able to get another view of these Waterbuck as the sun's going down. That beautiful golden hour light. Let me see if I can actually reposition, because I've just found myself a little rut. Let me see if I can get out the rut. Actually get the vehicle a little bit higher. That's better. So of course this light is the best light for photography. The golden hour, last hour of the day and the first hour of the day. Look at that. So I think I did just sneak in the answer there before your question came through. See, great minds think alike. But the smell does come from the oil, and it's thought that that oil actually taints the meat, but it's not really the case. Animals, I have seen lions eating Waterbuck, because there was a bit of a bush myth that animals would not eat the Waterbuck because of it. But you do have to be careful, I think, if you do prepare Waterbuck, apparently, because if you do run the knife through the gland, then it can taint the meat. But as I say, I have seen other animals eating Waterbuck. Good point, JM. Yeah, you very rarely see the oxpecker on the Waterbuck, and it could well be because of the oily hair. That could be a good call, because they do certainly have thick enough fur that the oxpeckers possibly would find ticks. Maybe the oil actually helps to reduce the tick numbers. It'd be quite interesting to find out. Maybe I don't think anyone would have done anything on that. It might be worth having a search, see if we can find anything about that. But yeah, a really good observation there. Really well done with that one. because you don't. I mean, generally speaking, the oxpeckers will go on most herbivores. They won't settle on carnivores for obvious reasons. Carnivores might decide that they want to snack on them. Oh, we've got some young bulls joining us. They're just crossing the road behind us. There we go. You can see the horns aren't as impressive as the big bulls that we've just seen. Absolutely beautiful. And I think the sun is going to be setting in the next 10-15 minutes or so. Look at that. Probably still a little bit high to watch it go down properly. But it is quite a pleasant temperature now. Hi, Sumat. I think I've got your name right, I hope. Asking if the Waterbuck's horns are brittle. No, they're very strong, and especially with the bulls of any of the species, they tend to be thicker at the base and usually shorter than that of the female, because they need to be a lot more robust, because they do use them for fighting. Now, if you get antelope where the females do have horns, now in Waterbuck the females don't, but in antelope where the females do have horns, as I say, they tend to be more slender, longer, because they don't tend to use them for fighting, they're more for defence. And I'm actually trying to think, I did find quite an interesting paper about someone who's actually tested the strength of horns. I'll have to try and dig that out and see if I can do a bit more reading about it, because it was going into all the details, the dynamics of it all. But certainly the base is where it's really important, and that's why it's just so thick compared to the females. So the bone, it's actually a bony core, and then it has keratin, so the fingernail substance and hair actually covering that bony interior. So definitely quite a strong substance, that. So I think Tristan's got something he wants to show you. I don't think it's quite the cats, but maybe it'll be something just as interesting.
It is indeed, Tara. Well, it's a nice sign, at least, so everybody thinks that I'm not completely mad and just following around imaginary footprints all afternoon. But this is the tracks for the Nkuhuma Pride, and as we go out, you'll see the beautiful golden light that is showing you the tracks on both sides of the road. So you'll see it's just a mass of footprints on either side as they go, and they've come from that western horizon where there's a beautiful sunset. Now, unfortunately, I'm probably a little frustrated at things at the moment, because there were lions that were found on Torchwood this morning, which I very nicely asked a few times whether or not those are the Nkuhuma Pride, because the tracks are heading that direction, and I was told many times that they're not. It now turns out that they most definitely are, because these tracks that I'm with are about to cross onto Torchwood, right in the direction of where those lions were found. So the Nkuhuma Pride, unfortunately for us, is in Torchwood. But the reason why we know these are lions, other than the fact that there are so many tracks here, is the following reasons. Now, it would be very similar size of a big male leopard, maybe slightly smaller if we had to look at these tracks, so I'll just circle one of them so that we can see. Now, if I put my hand next to it, a male leopard would probably be slightly smaller, and the toe area definitely wouldn't be as enlarged as what we see here. These toes are very big. You can see when I put my fingers there how big the toes are and how the soft sand is splayed out as the toes have come down. So these are most definitely from a lioness. That, coupled with the fact that there's so many tracks here, would indicate are not going to be as nice. But we also know that no claws in front and the 3 lobes at the back, most definitely lion and not hyena. That now changes my plans somewhat. I'm not 100% sure where I'm actually going to go now, because I was very hopeful that these lions were not going to be on Torchwood, but as it turns out that has happened. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to go along the Buffelshoek cut line and hope for some miracle of Mvula popping out back from Buffelshoek where he crossed yesterday, or you never know, maybe Tundi and Tingana gets up and come back our way across Triple M. That's what I'm going to hope for this evening. But like I say, slightly frustrating because these tracks have gone, and I would have checked here this morning already had I thought that they had come this far, but I didn't realize that they had walked as quickly as they had, and I suppose it's my own fault for not checking and rather trusting others that they are not the same lions. But it's amazing how far these Nkuhumas can walk, because if you think yesterday they were seen on Arathusa, and by this morning, fairly sort of early in the morning, they were found on Torchwood already. So they've crossed the whole of Juma during the night, and it just shows that when they're on a walk and when they want to go somewhere, they certainly don't waste any time whatsoever. So you can see they've just gone straight across here. This is Cheetah cut line, so this is the cut line with Torchwood, and across there, and then they've gone down slightly towards 2 big rocks, one known as First Rock and the other one known as Second Rock, and it's where the Birminghams came from the other day when Tara got them, the 2 Birmingham boys. That's exactly the same area that those lionesses and cubs are at the moment. So it sounds like apparently all 5 are there with the 6 cubs, so that's good news as well. At least they're all good, and they're apparently all looking very healthy, so that's also happy days. So glad that the Nkuhumas at least are looking good, and now hopefully tomorrow they'll turn around and they'll come back into this area and not just push straight north into Buffelshoek. It would be really nice if they decided to actually come back onto Juma and spend some time around Buffelshoek Dam. We'll keep an ear out. Maybe this evening they'll get up and move, but I don't think so. It's still a little bit too light for them to be up and moving just yet, and given the distance that they covered over the last last night, I doubt that they are going to move any further just yet. I reckon they're going to wait until that sun goes right down. It's also a full moon period, and there's going to be a period just after sunset, between sunset and that moonrise, that is going to be a good time for them to hunt. Once that moon gets up, unfortunately for them, it's going to become very bright and therefore a lot more difficult to hunt. But what is quite pleasant is that picture right there. So it was quite pretty when I had a few impalas sitting there with the sunset in the background. They were all kind of backlit by that sun, but they've all run off, unfortunately. You might have heard them rustling through the bushes, and maybe they've smelt those lions on the road, and that's why they're a little bit on the shy side. But that is a very pretty view to finish our day. So there we go. Now, Leopard lover, you're asking, isn't it strange that the buffaloes haven't returned to Juma? Well, the herds, at least, haven't returned to Juma as yet. Well, yes. I mean, we're all at a bit of a loss as to why exactly there are no buffalo around at the moment. Yeah, the drought undoubtedly had a major impact on the buffalo numbers. I don't think anyone has actually recorded just how many buffalo died during last year's drought. It also is because of the distribution of rain during the summer. There was a lot more rain that fell both south and north of us, and so I'd imagine a large portion of the buffalo are down on those 2 areas, as well as the river systems where they're still able to get water. Remember that a lot of the water here is dried up and there's not that many water holes, and so it will only house a few bulls here and there, but the big herds most definitely are still being seen on the big rivers to the north and south of us. So the Olifants, the Taba River north of us, even up into the Limpopo, and then in the south on the Sand and the Sabi River, quite a few herds being seen down there. Other than that, I have no idea why we wouldn't have seen at least a transition of some of those herds from Manyeleti down to us. I would have expected us to have seen maybe 1 or 2 crossing. We haven't really even had any tracks, so I'm not 100% sure why they're avoiding this area so much. Maybe last year is still etched into their memory, and they know that this is not a safe place, because most of the buffalo that came through here unfortunately would have been chased, and many were killed by a lot of the lions. And we know that the Nkuhumas had a fantastic time. The Avoca males, when they first came into the Sabi Sands, they managed to kill 7 buffalo in a night. So there was an absolute massacre of buffalo in this area, and maybe that's just led to a lot of these animals being a little bit nervous of coming down this area, and they've stuck more to other areas this year where there's a bit more water and maybe better grazing. You never know. Maybe this area last year had better grazing than some of those other places, and it was exhausted, and now they're going to make their way to areas where there's still better grazing than what we have here. Now, on top of a termite mound over there, Craig, I think just on top there, you should be able to find it. Looks like one of the korhaans or bustards. Nope, that one there, yeah. There it is, sitting proudly on top of its mound, and it's going to start calling. Now, it's got a bit of bill clapping that's going on, so when they do that, it's typically a sign that they are going to make a bit more noise. So let's see if it will. It's a red-crested korhaan is what it is, I think. I can't see 100%. Let me have a look with my binoculars, actually. Now, this is very typical of male korhaans and bustards. They like to get up onto termite mounds where they'll make a little bit of noise. And I'm just, like I say, looking through my binos just to get 100% confirmation on as to whether it's the black-bellied bustard or the red-crested korhaan. But it looks to me like a black-bellied bustard. It's got that black line that is sitting just underneath the beak, and so they have a slightly different call to the red-crested korhaan. No, it is the red-crested korhaan now that it's calling. It does have a bit of black under its beak, which is fairly odd. Most of the time black-bellied bustards will have that black stripe that comes down from the beak down to the chest, whereas red-crested korhaans don't really have that, which I'll show you now in the book. And this guy does have it, so he's a bit of an anomaly when it comes to the korhaans, but that call that was just made is most definitely the call of a red-crested korhaan and not the black-bellied bustard. The black-bellied bustard has that champagne cork popping sound that you get. So this is what we're looking at the moment. Like I said, that black-bellied bustard there's normally got the black that comes down into the neck, and the red-crested korhaan doesn't have that. But this particular bird is just called like a red-crested korhaan, so I can't see nicely with my binos at the moment, but it looks like it is that one. So there we go. He's very well camouflaged up there, and he's a lot further away than it looks. He's quite far. Maybe some of you got screenshots and we'll be able to get a better idea. In fact, I'm going to just try from a little bit further forward where I'll be able to see his neck a bit better. Maybe from here, Craig, if I go back slightly. In that gap there. What do we get? Let's see if we can see through. Come on, show us your neck properly. Stick your neck up. It's amazing the camouflage that they have. Now, it seems as though he's just behind some foliage. I'm going to try to go a little bit forward, Craig, because otherwise you're going to have a situation where you've got a little bit of foliage in front. Just say when. How's that? Is that better? There we go. He's all fluffed up, but it's just making it a little bit harder. But it does look like a red-crested korhaan. Like I say, the call is of a red-crested korhaan, so it must be. But you are looking very dapper up there, gentlemen. You're looking as though you're going to attract yourself a female, so best of luck. And hopefully he'll be successful. Like I say, they use these termite mounds to show themselves off. That bright black contrasting against the lightness of the mound is a good tactic to be able to attract females, and then they'll do that suicidal dive when the females are around. They'll fly up into the air and then bomb down to the ground. Wings will open at the last second, and it's all very dramatic, but it seems to work for the ladies, so that's what he'll probably try and do a little bit later. Right, and now the long journey along Buffelshoek boundary, and to see what we can find. Hopefully we'll get something exciting for our efforts this afternoon, and there will be some little cat somewhere, or even not a cat. Maybe a herd of ellies would also go down quite a treat in the sunset. But while I contemplate what we're going to find and where we're going to find it, let's go across to James, who's got, well, a feathered friend contemplating where it's going to find its next meal.
There is our poor and hopeless heron, still without a meal for the evening. Like I say, I haven't been watching him the whole night, but I have tried to keep my eye on him, and I don't think he's caught anything. Anyway, there he is. Before I leave you this time, though, I would like to go, we'll leave him, watch him for a few seconds, but my very favourite crossing at this time of the day is the Dusty crossing, and so when convenient I think we should go across there. The Dusty crossing, please, the Dusty crossing. And there it is, and I'll tell you why it's my favourite. It's because all the hippos are still in the water there, and the martins and swallows are flying down, swooping onto the water, taking their last insects, and you can see how very subtle the light is at this time of the day. Isn't it lovely? And there was just briefly, recently, a pinkish glow on it from the setting sun, and I always like to, if I'm sitting in this room, I always turn the camera this direction and I look down the river. And I think after that rather harrowing experience of watching the Wildebeest crossing up north around the Kichwatembo area today, I think this is exactly the kind of peace that an evening requires, don't you? Oh dear, there's a topi. Don't go in there. The topi here have been feeding the crocodile, everybody. Look at them. Watching the beastly croc fly, and I know I say beastly croc a lot, and some of you get a little upset with me because you love crocs, and so you should, because they're very important. But they really are very good at catching topi, and topi are particularly poor at getting away from them. I almost missed this. I mean, this looks like it might develop into a crossing. I don't think it will, because this crocodile is clearly not born of an enormous intelligence. This is obvious from the fact that he's sitting right exactly where they might think about getting into the water. And one is again drawn to that, what did we call it, a Facebook cartoon, if you like, that I've seen many times, and I'm sure many of you would have, with the gnu tapping the log saying, log, croc, log, croc, and it was a crocodile, and the gnu gets eaten. And then the next one does exactly the same thing. So I think the animals here do take a little while to learn, because I think if they learned a little bit faster than they do, I think you'll find that the crocodiles wouldn't eat them quite as often, and the crocodiles would need to develop slightly more, shall we say, sophisticated strategies. One lonely wildebeest that looks like he's thinking of charging the crocodile. No, no. All right, I'm going to wait and see if these chaps don't cross, because I think there might be a whole lot more wildebeest behind that. We'll wait and see what happens. In the meantime, I believe that there is a parlour going on somewhere at Juma.
Hi everybody. Well, we were trying to find a nice place to watch the sun go down, but then we saw this family of dwarf mongoose enjoying the last rays of the sun, enjoying the heat from the termite mound. It would have warmed up during the day. And we also had some yellow-billed hornbills who were getting the last morsels of food. They're actually still here. They're just to the left in the tree. But some of you may have heard us talking about the relationship that the hornbills and dwarf mongoose sometimes make. And here we are. We actually have it happening right in front of us. So there is a dwarf mongoose slowly making its way back to the rest of the family. So it's known as a mutualistic relationship because the dwarf mongoose have the benefit of extra eyes that are often sat higher than they can be in trees. And then the hornbills benefit because if there's anything that runs away from the dwarf mongoose, insect-wise, then they get to eat it. And look at that. Very important, having a bath before they go to bed. You see everyone partaking. Look at that. That is just one of my favourite sights. And it helps to strengthen the bonds between the family. The bird calling behind us. Hashtag Safari Live, YouTube. If you could hear the bird that was calling just behind us. There's actually a very cute little bird to the left in the tree. Golden-breasted bunting, I don't know. Oh, it's just flown off. So sometimes you'll actually find the hornbills waiting by the termite mound where the dwarf mongoose are sleeping in, waiting for them to wake up, and vice versa. Sometimes you'll see the dwarf mongoose waiting for the hornbills to arrive so they can go out and forage together. And it looks like that could be the case. So now they've now the mongoose have been bathing. The hornbills have decided now's a good time to preen as well, so they're partaking in the preening and cleaning of their feathers. Hi, Kristen, asking what a bunch of mongoose are called. Believe it or not, it's called a business. A business of mongoose. And they do look like they're up to business at the moment. We're getting down to the business of getting clean. Now, has anyone come back with our bird call, I wonder? Hashtag Safari Live, YouTube, if you'd like to answer that question. Because remember, we are live. Believe it or not, from the middle of the African bush, the South African bush, and also from the Mara, which is absolutely fantastic. Bringing you the wildlife from 2 countries on this vast continent. Really, really quite something. So, I think we've got another feathered friend that Tristan has managed to spot, so see if you have any luck identifying that bird.
I've found a predator, one of our smallest ones that we have out here, a little pearl-spotted owlet, and I'm sure Byron will be super happy when he sees this, because Byron loves pearl-spotted owlets and always makes me think of him when I see them. But look at that camouflage, isn't that an incredible way to blend in? It was actually sitting on a different tree, but if you look at it from far, you wouldn't know there really is an owl there if you drove past quickly, so you have to keep your eye out for them. They are absolutely tiny. You can see in relation to some of the bush willow leaves, which I'll pick just now so I can show you just how big a bush willow leaf is, and that will give you an idea of how big our pearl-spotted owlet is. I'm hoping that it does turn its head slightly because it's going to show its false eyes that it's got, and I love these birds because they have these big black circles on the back of their head, which indicates to other predators that might hunt it that it's almost as though it's being watched by this bird, and so it's a false set to deter predators and to stop being hunted from behind, which I think is very clever and a very cool little pattern to have. I was actually reading a very interesting article, and now with the dark eyes pattern on the back, I was reading an article today about bird coloration and pigments and how they were doing a study as to whether it's formed by melanin or if there are other parts or other cells that be able to form the colors that we see on birds. And it worked out that basically 37% of birds produce their color through melanin, and the melanin is actually the general coloration. So that will be, you know, darks, browns, blacks, those kind of things. And the actual detailed pattern is formed by a different cell, which I will get the name shortly. I did save it so that I would be able to remember the name, because it is quite a long one and it sounds very scientific. And they are called, where is it now? Carotenoids, apparently. And the carotenoids are responsible for the fine detail on these birds. So the things like the eyes with the little white around them, that would all be formed by those cells that are able to basically form these beautiful colors that we see and these patterns that are so intricate on birds, which was very interesting. Now, the other thing that Tara has been talking about, I remember yesterday she was talking about it, was the flight of birds and how birds fly. And for me, owls and the way that they fly and the structures that they have to be able to be as silent as they are is absolutely fascinating. There was a video that went around for a while of different birds in flight and the sound waves that they produce, and the owl is basically a flat sound wave. And the reason it is like that is because their feathers, unlike others, have fluted structure to it, and so when they fly, they actually are able to disturb the air slightly, that it doesn't cause any sound whatsoever. It's really an amazing thing to watch, and that video, if you can find it on the internet somewhere, will be worth all of you watching as these birds fly and the incredible sound that they make. So they use doves and varying other birds, and then they fly an owl, and the owl is absolutely silent. It is such an incredible thing to watch, and that's why they're so deadly at night when they're hunting. Unfortunately, he moves his head every now and then, but we haven't had a great look at the spots just yet. I'm pretty sure he will at some point, or she, should I say. It's difficult to sex a pearl-spotted owlet. And you can see where the name pearl-spotted owlet comes from. If you look on the wings there, there's little white spots, and there those black eyes are on the back. You can see now as it turns its head. Oh, and there it goes. Well, that was very pleasant. Now, what I wanted to show you is, we saw just now the leaf in relation to the bird itself in the background. Now, Craig, sorry, I'm going to park you in here a little bit while I pick a leaf. But there we go. If we have a look, sorry, my hands are very dirty because Wendy's steering wheel is a bit dirty, but that is the size of the leaf in my hand. So you'd find that the owl we saw just now was not much bigger. That owl would probably be about that size in my hand, which is really very cool indeed. Right, so a little bit of luck, at least. It's not a cat, but still as fascinating and as awesome to see as any of the cats are, and it's got spots on it too, so we'll take it for sure. Right, Craig, let's see what else we can find on Buffel's hook cut line. And well, it seems as though Scott, who's just joined us in the Mara, is now going to chime in with some spots of his own.
Hello everyone, good to have you with me. My name's Scott. I'm teamed up with Jean-Andre on camera, and we have got a treat for you. There, as you can see, is a setting sun, and there is one of 5 male cheetahs, and we're going to get some incredible views of them silhouetted against this wonderful sunset. We've literally just come across them just in the nick of time. We were thankfully helped by one of the cheetah researchers who spotted them from a long way off, and just in the nick of time before the sun sets, we've found you these wonderful cheetah. Look at this. And the fact that there are 5 of them just makes this moment that much more special. They're quite well fed, so I think they're just checking their territory, which seems to be a very large one. Each time we see them, it's in a new area, and this is just absolutely magical. Whew, well, what a relief. There was a mad panic that we had got into this area a little bit late today. It's been a busy day, and I'm just going to reposition again quickly. And we were worried we weren't going to find these guys. We're planning on spending the night with them so that we can wake up first thing in the morning and make sure we get you guys as much action as possible from them. So Imagine spending the whole night out here with no cheetah. That wouldn't be much fun. So just in time for us, thankfully. We got lucky. Okay. I think this might be another good spot to wait. There goes the cheetah researcher, Eleanor, who I'm sure you guys will meet at some time. Hello, R. Beard. You are very impressed with Gendre's fancy camera work as well as his subjects and are suggesting we put one of these cheetah sunset silhouette shots into the show reel. I couldn't agree more, and I don't think Gendre would either. This is too good. Seems like the other two are going to pop a little bit down in the foreground. The first two couldn't have done a better job giving us some wonderful views with that red oat grass in the background. Well, from having no cheetahs to having this, I think it's fair to say luck was hugely on our side this evening. Wunderbar. Now let's take another closer look at them as they head in front of the vehicle. You'll notice that they do have quite full bellies, so that's something to take note of. What have you seen?
Tommy running behind.
Oh, well done. Chandra says there's a Thompson's gazelle behind us. And I'm sure with their full bellies, they're probably not going to be too interested in a Thompson's gazelle. These five boys, if you haven't met them before, tend to focus on hunting wildebeest, and they're quite specialized regarding cheetah. Because there's five of them, they can manage to bring down fully grown wildebeest, which is quite some task, even for five cheetah. Quite risky business, but you could almost relate this coalition of 5 male cheetah to a coalition of 5 male lion that bring down buffalo and large prey such as that. These guys are just a slightly lighter weight version thereof. So a cheetah wildebeest is kind of equivalent to a buffalo lion showdown. Hello to, I think it's Tiny. You've had a very interesting comment in that you said, Tony, that it reminds you of the Lion King, or except that there are loads of cheetahs and therefore it is the Cheetah King. And I think this is, especially with that sunset, some worthy footage to put forward to Disney for what surely should be made the Cheetah King movie. Well, cheetah are not good climbers, and this tree looks a bit too vertical for them to try and hop up. A friend of mine was guiding some of his guests through the Mara the other day, and he was lucky enough to bump into these five, and he got some beautiful photos of, I think, 3 of them up a fig tree all at once. But this tree is a little bit too tricky for them to climb. If they've got more of a kind of 45-degree angled trunk, the cheetah can sometimes have a go. Hello, Jackie. You would like to know if these cheetah will fight over kills, and from what we've seen, there isn't too much fighting. There's a little bit of growling and hissing, but not much fighting so far. I think if they were to catch something small, though, which we haven't seen them catch yet, and they were very hungry, then yes, I think a dominance hierarchy would certainly kick in, and it will certainly kick in when there's a female around. So even though the 5 of them are working as a team, there will be times when only one of them can be the boss. Now what's interesting is that the last time I drove through these plains, they were full with wildebeest, and it feels like there's not too many around now, not too much prey. Having said that, though, there's a whole a whole bunch, mainly zebra, in the distance in the direction they're going. So there is a little bit of prey there. But it's really interesting to notice how the large herds of wildebeest fluctuate in their movements so greatly. I think some of you got lucky with Jamie and some crossing action this afternoon at a crossing point that literally only started oh, there goes some Thompson's gazelle. They've made a good move getting out of town. And ooh, that's a Grant's gazelle. That's a little bit chunkier than a Thompson's gazelle. Maybe that might catch their attention. Let's go and see. We don't want to be left in a cloud of dust. Thanks, Eleanor. She's a wonderful lady. We haven't spent much time with her, but she's really, really interesting. And she spends as much time as she possibly can with these cheetah. And what she's doing is she's got a massive microphone that she's recording all of their interesting audio sounds and communicatory sounds that they have between one another, and she's trying to work out what it is they're saying to one another. So she's a wonderful person to know out here, and she's gonna be able to provide us with a lot of information. We've just been quite chaotic. Every time we bump into her, we're like rushing the opposite way or trying to get some good shots. So we haven't pinned her down and gleaned as much info as we can off her, but it certainly will be something we do in the future, or as soon as time allows. What are they going to do next? The Grant's gazelle that was here has disappeared.
Now, unfortunately, we had a few gremlin issues, which has meant that, unfortunately, we're back in Juma. Not unfortunately, actually, because we have a beautiful zebra stallion that is crossing over the road. And isn't that a pretty view as the rolling road goes and the zebra crosses over? Very pretty indeed. And the setting sun in the background. Now, unfortunately, as with the rest of the animals today, our zebras are crossing into Buffalo's Hook. So the rest of them have all gone off our boundaries as well. So we'll have to try and see if we can't find something going in the opposite direction. We need things to start coming this way across this road. I wonder if we can get a view of this. Hold on, Craig. This might be quite cool. Because the rest of the zebras that have already crossed over, maybe over here. It's not going to be great because there's going to be lots of foliage in the way. But there is a zebra that has decided it's going to climb its very own termite mound. So you'll find this quite commonly with zebras, is they like to go up termite mounds. They feed a lot off the grass on termite mounds, much like buffalo would do, kudu, impalas. You see a lot of them doing it. The reason is because that food is far more nutritious. The termites, when they build this mound, are mixing saliva with their feces and soil particles, and that feces acts as a compost basically, and as they mix it all together, so that plant life then starts to grow, and it's very nutrient rich in comparison to the rest of the plants in the area, and so that's why they go up there to eat off it. The other plus side of a zebra being on top of a mound is that it can see for quite a long way, so it'll be able to see if there's any signs of predators potentially in this area. And that's the stallion right at the back, so he waited for his whole herd to go before he went, and he's just checking up on us as we're sitting here. At least they decided to stay and didn't just go away from us straight away. It's quite pleasant. Craig, I'm going to go forward a little bit for you. I just want to see if we can't get a better view on the stallion nicely out in the open, like that there. That should be better. That's much better. We don't have too many branches now in front of him. What are you doing with your lip? We have a smiling zebra. There we go. Isn't this funny? What are you doing with your lip? I wonder if he hasn't smelt something there where a female maybe urinated and it's almost part of his phlegm and grimace that he hasn't got quite right, but it's definitely giving us a little toothy grin to end our day. Now, Chitty Chatty Meg, you're asking if I've ever seen a skinny zebra because they always look so fat and healthy. There we go, there's a phlegm and grimace as he lifts his head up. And you see, back down to the ground again. And I wonder if Tingana was doing this morning with Tara. I heard that he was sniffing around, but I wonder if he was also displaying a phlegm and grimace at any point. Now, Chitty Chatty Meg, in terms of skinny zebras, oh, there he goes again. I don't know what's wrong with our zebra, but no, not really. If you see, I have seen skinny zebras, but their stomach will always have some roundness to it, and the reason for that is because of the stomach structure that they have. They're a hindgut fermenter, which means they basically have a massive vat that breaks down the food that they eat, and the byproduct of that is actually a lot of gas. So zebras do bloat quite heavily, and even if they're skinny, you will find a bit of bloating. And last year when we had the drought, the zebras, some of them actually did look quite skinny. You could see the hip bones protruding off the skin and varying other parts of their body that you could see the ribs a little bit, but the stomach itself always stays fat, and that's just because of the nature of their digestive system. But this is the most entertaining male zebra ever. I'm loving the way that he keeps smiling. Big yawn. Has it been a tough day today, buddy? There we go. He's decided that's enough of that. Enough smiling for the camera. It's now time to wander off. Very cool. Right, onward we go. Thank you, zebras. That was very kind of you. We've been spoilt, though. I know today we've been following lion tracks, and you always get despondent when you don't find a cat, and it's more because I get despondent for all of you. I feel like we invest so much time in tracking, and that it becomes a massive part of the drive, and that we don't focus on a lot of other things that are happening because we're trying to track. And I always feel bad when we commit to it and then don't find any of the animals for you. So sometimes you feel a bit negative about the fact that you've tracked and you haven't found the animal, but we have seen some amazingly cool stuff today, and I've had an actually thoroughly good day. I haven't seen really any major sightings. I did have actually short trunk herd this morning, but other than that, I've had lots of antelope species, and there's been the odd bird here and there, and it's been a thoroughly enjoyable day out in the bush. It's also fairly warm. As you can see, I'm still in a shirt. I have a little vest fleece on, but otherwise it's actually not that cold. I remember before I went on leave at this time of the evening, we were really wrapping up tight and making sure that we were nice and warm, and now it's actually not too bad. Now I'm going to go through an area with gremlins, so I do apologize if there's a bit of breakup. I am sorry. It's off.
Hello everybody. Well, we've done loops. I'm still trying to see if we can find that mating pair of leopards, but unfortunately haven't really found any sign of their tracks or anything like that. So we're making our way onto quarantine, just because, as I say, Tingana was actually missioning, so it'd be nice to actually see if he is around. Now it is starting to get a little bit dark, so I'm going to see if we can start using the spotlight to maybe look for any eyes. But I do wonder if anyone did get our bird. Otherwise I will let you know who I heard behind us when we're at the Dwarf mongoose. But we'll have a little drive around here, maybe go to the pan, maybe thinking they might have gone to water. But say there was no tracks that looked like they crossed the road over by Triple M. It doesn't sound like, maybe the bird was just that little bit too faint, but it was a red-crested korhaan, so I think Tristan was giving you a bit of information about one earlier. But I feel Tristan's pain. There are days that you do a lot of tracking and unfortunately you just can't get to the animal, and it can be very frustrating. But then there are other days when you do the tracking and you get the animal at the end, and that is just so rewarding. So I feel your pain, Tristan. I really do. Do we have any eyes? Nobody. Is that my favourite bird I'm hearing? Oh, I think he's flown off. I think it is though, I can hear the little rattle of the fork-tailed drongo. So it is still quite a nice temperature. It did drop, but now the warmth from the road and the termite mounds, it's just warm enough at the moment, but I'm sure it will drop again in temperature. Oh, a little bat. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on your screen. Possibly a little African pipistrelle. Project Alpha. No, I haven't. Project Alpha, wanting to know if I've ever seen a striped weasel. That is something I would love to see. Or a striped polecat, otherwise known as a zarilla. So it sounds like there's another vehicle that's got the same idea as me. Just doing another sweep around here. So I think we'll go to that little pan just behind Voyatella Lodge and maybe end up at the dam if we have time. But yes, that would be amazing to see. Now the weasel does tend to go for, I believe, the open grasslands. So if it was here, this would be the place to see it. And again, the zarilla, you don't see very often either, but it's one of those that is believed to be throughout South Africa. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same story as the leopard, because it's so difficult to find any sign of. I've never caught it on my camera traps either, which is quite amazing. We catch most things on the camera trap, but not those animals. So taking Galago shortcut, going north, and we'll try that little pan. I've got high hopes for that little pan. It has done us proud in the past. So you never know. Looking out for any owls now. Any jackal. Or even any caracal. That would be lovely to see as well. So here we go. Oh! Apparently there has been a caracal seen on Cheetah Plains. Oh, that's really nice. The caracal, it stands about, sort of from the dashboard, it stands about that height. I've been lucky enough to see caracal a couple of times, but it's one of those special creatures that sometimes you can work for many years in the bush and still not see a caracal. They are quite secretive, but they're also extremely good bird hunters. They can launch themselves into the sky after birds, so they really are quite specialist hunters in that regard. It's a little bit quiet around here. I was hoping maybe to find some impala or something like that that can maybe give us an alarm call if there's anything around. Of course, the baboons and the monkeys have all gone to bed. So the baboons roost up in the trees, as do the vervet monkeys. So they are like us, they go to bed at night. And off the ground, out the way, or out the reach of predators. Oh, who was that? Was that an owl? Someone just flew off. Let's see where it landed though. So there's some people asking for the papers that I mentioned, and I will give the links to the ladies in FC so they can put them on a blog for you. And the leopard one in particular was by Jacobson et al. So there was quite a few contributors to that paper, and that was in 2016. So that was the one about the range of the leopard actually decreasing a lot more than what was thought. But I believe Tristan has his spotlight working. Hey, that's good news. So hopefully Tristan will be able to spot something for you in the last few minutes of our live game drive this evening.
I do have my spotlight working, but I, to be honest, haven't plugged it in yet. It's not quite dark enough for the spotlight just yet. I feel like I can still see a little bit, and I was just coming to check the dam anyway, so didn't really need the spotlight for the dam given the amount of lights that are here already. So I shall plug it in just now, I think, on my way from here, although it seems as though it might be a bit futile from the dam to the lodge itself. But worth always coming to Gari Dam at this time of the day. It's the perfect time of day for cats to come and drink. And it's always worth checking. And Shongile, we know, was around this morning. And look at that. Look at the colours in the sky this evening. Isn't that beautiful? And the water reflecting those pinks and yellows and oranges. It's a wonderful way to finish one's day. And where the lodge is actually very pretty. You can imagine lots of guests have enjoyed many a time on those decks as they look over the Gari Dam. Isn't that pretty? I think so. Nothing like some Egyptian geese to break the very sort of pretty ambient sounds and the quiet, peaceful sunset. Oh, we've got a fight going on. Look at this, isn't this amazing? So we're just going into IR quickly so we can watch them fight. But you can see how it's both male and female are fighting for this area. Look how they've latched onto one another. Isn't this incredible? Oh, into the water they go. They can be glad this is not the Mara River, because that would have certainly attracted a few crocodiles, which would have caused one of these Egyptian geese to probably be no longer. That was absolutely amazing. Wow. There we go. A bit of action to finish off our afternoon. It's been an absolutely fantastic day. Not only do we have an exquisite sunset behind us, but Scott had his cheetahs and Tara with mating leopards and all the crossings that we've had. It's been absolutely incredible. And talking about our cheetah, I think Scott's going to close everything up with the last few moments with the cheetah.
Well, we've managed to get into a better signal area, and we're going to show you one last view of these magnificent animals. I hope you've enjoyed your sunset safari. Jandra and I certainly haven't contributed a whole lot, but we feel like our contribution has been a good one right at the end. And we hope you guys have had a wonderful safari. This is certainly a great way to be ending off your evening. This is one of the smaller ones. He's probably a little bit younger than the larger ones, I'm guessing, or maybe just genetically a little bit smaller. They're all slightly different. We hope you have a wonderful day, night or morning, wherever in the world you are, and we'll see you on the next safari.